Hello everybody and welcome. My name is Ketchup and I'm joined on the desk by Jackie Boy, and this is the ESL Guns of Boom GO4 finals. Now, things are going to be a little bit different this week. We're starting to reach the ultimate days, the final countdown. We are moments away from our Season 1 finals here in our Guns of Boom GO4 League, which means that we have one more of these left to go. And the big thing about this show is that it actually has no bearing whatsoever on the Season 1 finals results. So this is going to be some last-minute storylines. We're going to find out which teams are the most dangerous and who the head honchos are going to be as we go into the big money in a few weeks' time. Jackie, how's it going?
I'm good. Yourself? How are you feeling about today's show?
It's an interesting one for me. The big thing is going to be the fact that this is all storylines right now, and I'm not even going to talk about the money because it's not about the money today either. It's about teams trying to assert their dominance as we go into the finals, where the big bucks are finally going to be on the line. We have some new graphics for you guys today to find out basically what the story is going to be and who the final teams are going to be at the same time. So we can take a look at the current standings. There's lots and lots to talk about. So the Season 1 standings, as you can see here. The first thing, of course, I'll talk about it as always. Black Bulls, they're not in this running because they already won the European Invitational. So we'll be seeing them regardless. It comes down to the other teams that we can see in the standings right here. Forza Esports had the highest point earnings, back-to-back. We're slightly behind them. And the big one, Israel Esports. This is the newer team as we go into the final stages of the GO4. And this is actually the final team that we will be seeing qualified. And let's quickly talk about these guys. I believe we have some more stuff coming up that we can discuss. But there's going to be a nice mixed bag, I feel. We have a lot of the really traditional players. We have back-to-back. We have, the Black Bulls, who were formerly known as Yakuza. They were there from day one. And a lot of these day one teams are sort of showing their head, and we'll be seeing them at the finals. We have North America later. We'll be talking about that in due time. But for now, we're going to stick to EU. So the combination of teams that we have here, Jackie, what do you think?
I think it's interesting. Obviously, a lot of names that had floated around the Guns of Boom scene from what we saw at their first finals in Poland, and they've still been sort of grinding it out online. Majority of the GO4s, everyone's been coming towards that top end time and time again. It's exciting to see. The only one that is a little bit interesting, a bit different, is Israel Esports. The entire team there coming together. Be exciting to see that one. I haven't really seen them play myself, but they're doing good. Obviously, third position picked up over Jug as well, which is more of a household name in the Guns of Boom scene.
I've got to say, it's kind of disappointing that Knights of Honor weren't able to sort of climb a little bit higher. Considering them sort of playing as long as they have been, you kind of expected to see them do a little bit better because they were the original team. They were taking wins all the time, and as of recently, they've still been able to show their faces within the top of the pyramid as we've had a couple of these GO4s. I just assume that even though they've done well in some of the GO4 streams, they weren't the streams that gave points, and that really is the big one. When the chips were down and it was time to play for points or nothing, I guess they weren't quite able to step up. But with all things said and done, we have the next graphic, which is to show the teams that are guaranteed and who we're going to be seeing at the Season 1 finals in North America. So let's go over them. Forza Esports, Black Bulls, back-to-back, and Israel Esports. Now, I believe Israel Esports was the direct invite. And through points, it was back-to-back and Forza. I've got to say, shouts to back-to-back. I see that Doom font. Don't worry, you're not fooling me. I've used that once many times. I like your logo, guys. Appreciate it. But we can sort of expect these teams. I'm not surprised to see Forza and back-to-back through the points. Black Bulls, shock horror, right? This is not going to be an upset. We've known these guys are going for ages. But Israel Esports, I will say, as the direct invite, they have the most to prove. And that's the one thing about the invite system, where if you can get your name out there, if you can play well, if you can show the world you got some flair and that you belong at the finals through maybe other reasons, I think there's a lot of pressure on the invited team to show that they should be there, right? Because the biggest issue would be if a team would be invited and they would just go 0-2 or choke it up or whatever the format would be for the finals. We need to make sure that when they play today or when they play at the finals, they bring their A game and show everyone that they are 100% within the same level as everyone else.
Yeah, it's going to be very true. Right? They're going to want to show up, prove what they can actually do. Plus, it's a completely different environment. The transition from sort of normal LAN tournaments when you're playing on a PC to go into that environment, it's still very different. But the huge transition from just playing at home on your mobile phone to then being on a stage where everything's so much more different, it's a lot more lifelike, it's very real in front of you, especially being in a different country as well. A lot of these players, especially our Europeans that are going to have to travel over to America, could be their first time in the country for a lot of these people. Obviously, if they haven't really traveled before because they're still fairly new to esports and their first big venture was Poland, it's going to be a system shock. They're not really going to have that instant get to grips with their environment, their surroundings. It'll take a while before they sort of feel comfortable, and that could be interesting to see who dominates early on. Obviously, Black Bulls, they might have a little bit of leeway with that. Obviously, competing in Poland and being able to win that event, they know what they need to do to keep themselves composed. So, wouldn't be surprising if they have a little bit of an edge over some of the competitors.
It's kind of funny to me, you're talking about the two different studios, the one that we had in Poland and, of course, the big one in North America for the Season 1 finals. As someone who, in 2015, I did a lot of stuff in the Polish offices with ESL for different games and different projects. And then one of the games I was working with took me to LA. It was actually the exact two identical studios that we would bid both the European Invitational and then the Season 1 finals. It's the same studios in California and in Poland. And coming from experience, the difference between Poland and California is just, it's going to be, like you said, it's a system shock.
Yeah.
Like the players, if they feel like they've been able to, get their feet wet with the European Invitational, they ain't seen nothing. It really is an entirely different beast when you go over to the States, and the environment is different, the weather is different. It's hot out in California, believe it or not. You got to get your aircon ready. And there are lots of different things that these players will not be ready for. And it's very interesting to see how they will actually step up and take to it. I personally am very interested indeed. Now, we have got the bracket for the games. Whether the bracket's ready up or not, we'll see in due time. But again, just to kind of go back on what we just talked about at the start of the show, it really is going to be about teams proving who the top dog is going into the finals. This is the last show that we're going to be doing before the Season 1 finals. So if you can win this final streamed cup as the team that wins, you've got to be able to leave the show going, okay, all right, we're in good form. We're in good form. Whether it's a team that's qualified and they win, so they've now got that chain of momentum, or it's a team that didn't actually make it saying, well, I guess we'll just try next time.
Yeah, it's that last sort of little bridge to try and see sort of where you are positionally as a team and sort of see if you can get over the hump. The one thing I'm interested in, Ryan, is obviously there's a lot of cosmetics in the game. There's a lot of items that people will bring out at certain times. I wanted to see if there's anything going on Halloween special. I mean, obviously this is going to be the spookiest Guns of Boom show we've done to date, being the closest to Halloween this year. What are we going to see? Is there going to be some pumpkin heads? I'm excited.
If there is not a single Halloween item at all, I'm sure the game, I'll be honest, I haven't checked. But if there is anything Halloween themed and I don't see it, I'm going to be really disappointed. Like 100%. This is the time. There would be no other opportunity on stream for players to actually
be spooky.
Be spooky when it is appropriate.
Yeah.
If there's a random show, let's say if there was like a Christmas cup and they're wearing a pumpkin head, I don't care about that. We care about the time when it matters. So who knows? We might be able to find out in due time. And now we have plenty to talk about in North America as well, but I'm going to save that for later, so stay tuned. Whether you're watching this on Facebook or Twitch or whatever, welcome. Hopefully you're enjoying your time here. For those that have just joined us, this is the ESL Guns of Boom GO4 finals. Every 2 weeks we do one of these streamed cups. They had no bearing throughout the Season 1 finals. That was all done through qualification points, through weekly competition. However, every 2 weeks when we do one of these GO4 Cups, it's an opportunity for teams to get their name out there, be seen on stream, play in these broadcasted tournaments, and win a little bit of money. There's money to win each week, but there is significantly more money to win for these GO4 Cups. So, you kind of take the trade-off for no points versus actually a really decent chunk of change.
Yeah.
That's different now. That definitely is different because we're not really going to focus too much on the money behind this tournament. Obviously, you want to win it because it's a nice little chunk of change, but it's all about the Season 1 finals. It's well over 100K these teams are going to be playing for. And considering many of these teams and almost every single one of these players don't have experience in competitive games before it, least of all playing for money, this is their first opportunity to see a really, really decent chunk of that cash. And that's another thing that really actually kind of interests me, is how these players take to the pressure, because at the end of the day, Guns of Boom is a fast game, right? Maps don't go beyond 5 minutes. So if I were to tell you on your mobile phone, you're going to play one game of Guns of Boom, and if you win this match, maybe you're going to win $20,000. And if you lose it, you've got nothing. How does that change how you play? If you were to play at home and you were to just, maybe train or practice for a tournament, and you've got these little mini games in your own little head where essentially, you know, you're looking at the match and then you tell yourself, I want to win 20,000 if I win this match. And you're in that mindset just to pretend. It will, even if you're just pretending, it changes how you look at things. So how is that going to happen at the finals? I'd say that's guaranteed to mess with the players.
Yeah, you can see some players. I mean, that happens in other esports, right? Where people sort of start getting themselves into a mindset where they don't play to win, but instead they just play not to lose. And they play a lot worse because of it, because they're worried. They don't want to go for sort of like a big dive play or try and sort of, you know, go for something crazy with a full team play. We've seen that at times where people start to make really sort of misplayed pushes, and the pressure does get to them because they're not really playing as a team anymore. They're not trying to actively win, they're just trying to keep themselves in the game and not lose, and everything just goes downhill from that standpoint because you don't play with confidence. And a lot of video games, you know, confidence is everything.
Oh yeah, it's all about being arrogant sometimes. You know, cockiness and confidence is hard to get, but I feel like it's real fuel. You know, if you're able to really channel that and own that, you know, show some personality out there, prove that you're not afraid of people, that's a great message to send to teams. But I've been informed that our next matchup is going to be back-to-back versus Black Bulls, which is going to be kind of interesting to me because this is going to be a little bit of a trend setter. You know, two of these teams are completely guaranteed for the finals, and we'll be seeing them offline later in a few weeks' time, and now they're going to be going head-to-head. This is a single elimination tournament, guys. There's going to be a third-place playoff to determine who the top 3 teams are going to be, because only money is distributed to the 3 teams that place top. But that said, only one team can possibly get grand finals under these current circumstances. So that does mean that one of them will be going into the, technically the lower bracket when they go for the third-place map. But no one wants third place today. They don't. They want the win, because at the end of the day, the win is all that matters. I believe we have the maps coming up soon as well, so we'll go and check these out on the bottom. Military Warehouse, Old Factory at the Wild West. Old Factory, I do find that interesting because we never saw that map.
Is this new, or is this just something
it's always been there.
Right.
It just hasn't really been in the rotation.
So this is just like a trap card they've pulled out for the last week?
Maybe, to be fair, it very well could have been, because the thing about the Old Factory is it's been there for a long, long time. And
it's quite old.
It is. It's the Old Factory. This isn't the new factory, is it? Anyway, the Old Factory is a map that if you play Guns of Boom, you're going to be experienced with it, because the second you do Team Deathmatch, which is the first map, the first game mode that you play, you're used to it already because you see it straight away the second you start playing the game. Haven't really seen it in competitive though, which does interest me. I'm interested to see how the teams tackle it. And then we have a bit more traditional with Military Warehouse, Wild West Saloon. King of the Hill was always going to be quite an interesting game mode, I think, to do the decider map on. But before then, 2 team deathmatches, and we've seen our fair share of team deathmatch so far. It's entirely built around 2 evenly matched teams. Tends to be a pretty even ordeal. And then it starts to get significant in the final stages. They will go back and forth because you only have so much health items, so much grenades. When you run out, you're pretty much on borrowed time, unless you can get like a cheeky snipe or something like that. So when you have the final, 1 minute, 100 points, etc., etc., that's where every kill starts to matter. So, Jackie, do you reckon we'll see more of that again? Do you reckon we'll get a good example here of what TDM brings to the table?
I think so, right? I mean, the longer it's gone on, the more it's sort of got into that format that you just broke down there, where the last sort of 100 points or so of the game are really the core meat of it, because for the most part, it is just a lot of trading. Everyone sort of trades each other off. It's constant back and forth. And as you said, you then get into a position where when that last 100 points is up, it really comes down to who wins those important team fights then. Because you run out of grenades, you run out of armor, you can't really do too much, you're going to get killed. So you need to try and get a majority of frags when you're in that big group and sort of try to hope to win the trade game from there. So it does sort of trade efficiently, and then just a very sort of fast trade game towards the end. It's quite interesting. It definitely has its own sort of spin in Guns of Boom. Team Deathmatch, quite unlike what you see in other games here because of how close it is for the majority.
100%. And I've just been informed it's going to be Old Factory as our first map, so we are completely guaranteed a nice little fresh look at somewhat of a new map, which I think that the reason I'm excited to see that is because Old Factory was always one of my favorite maps to play. But the fact of the matter is we haven't really been able to see it played in tournament, and that's going to change. And we're going to see a little bit of that today. So almost immediately we can see Killing Machine, who has actually changed his name back. Not that guy called KM. He is now Killing Machine outright. Migs and Gonza, John Wick. The classic crew, as we're super familiar. And then we can see Excellence. Now here's the thing. Lord Mano, Divine King, Romeo, and Excellence are all playing in this lineup. They've been changing their rosters across each GO4, but I think that now we are dawning very, very close to the finals. We are starting to see lineups that I think we'll be seeing in America. Like, they want to get their experience. They don't want to mess around now. They want to get their practice in as a squad before we play for the major tournament in a few weeks.
Yeah, it makes logical sense as well, because if you're playing against back-to-back, so it's another team that's actually at the event. you have a very limited wealth of practice you can really get against those other teams as well. So you might as well try and train on that whilst you can. We are into the game. As we said, it is always very close in the opening stages of Team Deathmatch. Just a lot of trades, nothing really too out of the ordinary. We have a stalemate here as well. 1-1-1 to 99 as back-to-back do lead. They find the follow-up frag as well. Killing Machine on the sniper catch up, and we know just how effective he can be with that weapon.
And it's just, history has taught us that Killing Machine is such a talented player here with that sniper rifle. For those, maybe unaware, I believe he's using the Thanatos, that long charge-up time, but it does massive damage, especially if you get a headshot, which he just obtained. And let's not forget, the extra bonuses you can get for your kills will give you a lot more points. Those double kills, those headshots, those grenade kills, anything that is an extra spice, a killing spree. How about that one? Killing Machine's going to bag that for his team. He gets taken out by Excellence, but I think they've just done him a favor. If you're going to get your killing spree and then immediately go down, you have an opportunity to respawn and then get another killing spree immediately, which is why back-to-back now have so many points over Black Bulls currently.
Migs with the trade there against Romeo, will drop the grenade, and him with a little bit of martyrdom as he gets blown to death. And at this point, it is back-to-back. Still leading, 280 points now. They have the advantage, are in a good position. Black Bulls not really trading too effectively here. They've been quite manhandled, splitting up more than actually playing in a wolf pack. We're seeing the buddy system pretty much come out here, though. Gonza playing close support of John Wick, Migs just on his own, and then the Overwatch support, rather, from Killing Machine, just in the elevated angle with a sniper. A very slow game. Not compared to what we're expecting to see from these two teams. Definitely showing a lot of respect, Ryan.
Does Divine King's cosmetics technically count as Halloween?
Potentially. I mean,
Creepy
clowns
clown
are quite scary, right?
He is, but that looks like somewhat of a Joker, which, to be fair, that's always many a people's favourite Halloween costume this time of year, is that Joker. But either way, I think I just see Killing Machine get another killing spree. And just take a look at the points. He is leading the charge here. And then on the flip side, with the Black Bulls, it's Excellence, who currently has the most points for his team. Watching the two of these players is much appreciated. They're the ones putting in the heavy lifting. Excellence now has been able to pick someone out. Going to be coordinating that to the rest of his team. It's going to be 2 kills in a row for back-to-back. Can they secure a third here in this group fight? Killing Machine looking to go around, but Excellence actually catching him off guard. A lot of damage, but unfortunately for Excellence was not able to secure it. All he really did was give his position away, and the rest of the team just picked him up. Back-to-back have a very steady lead. And now they have less than 100 to go. This is the danger territory. Unfortunately, Romeo just running straight into that one. Lord Mano can't secure. Migs gets 2. Getting dropped by Excellence, but he's done so much work here. We're drawing the end of a map, and I reckon back-to-back should be able to take this.
Yeah, I mean, they're so far ahead. Normally we see these games get a lot closer, and they're trying to, at the very least, peel it back now at the last minute here, Ryan, but it's not looking great. Romeo's the only one really going on a bit of a tear, but he's finally been shut down. It's 480 now, 500 points picked up very quickly towards the end here. And we will see the victory for back-to-back as they pick up the first map. So a bit of an interesting one, that. It played quite differently. Very slow from Black Bulls. Didn't really seem like themselves going into that opening matchup. Bit weird.
Well, I feel like it's also the nature of a map like Old Factory. The thing about Old Factory, which it may be one of the reasons we haven't really seen it get picked, is they're just very small. These maps are pretty tiny, some of them, especially the older maps that we'd seen for a long, long time. They're pretty closed in. So when you actually manage to take a kill, it's hard to hold a position, because when the map is as small as it is, you're pretty much guaranteed to take a significant amount of damage when you land a kill yourself. And then if you try and get in position, there's probably going to be another teammate of the person that you just take, essentially frag, and they're going to be right near you. So, like, how many times in these replays do we see someone get a kill and they immediately get dropped or immediately take massive damage? Look at how small the map is. That's pretty much exactly why. So, when back-to-back have an amazing start and they continue that lead and they just keep going, keep going, keep going, Black Bulls weren't really able to establish anything after that. They would get a kill but then immediately drop and then lose map control again. It was mostly back-to-back kind of just doing their thing. And a big part of that was because there was no answer for Killing Machine. If you have good angles up here with a sniper rifle, particularly the Sniper Alley, which is designed to be done that way. It's designed for snipers to go up there. I feel like he was just quicker on the draw every time and they could not out-snipe him. And he was a real thorn in their side for that one.
Yeah, he was in a really good position the entire time, obviously. As you said, they didn't really have much of a chance to actually effectively counter him. It's interesting. Obviously, the first time I've really seen that map played out, it does play an awful lot like, I believe, Warehouse, but just a much more condensed version.
I would say they're almost completely identical.
Yeah, it's the main building in the middle, so obviously people know that from Warehouse. Other than that, it just seemed like they've sort of shaved the edges off, put it in a small box. Little Halloween present for you.
I feel like that interests me, though, because we have Military Warehouse up next. So in terms of general game plan, they're almost identical.
I'm pretty sure it's the same building.
So, you know what? It could even be.
It might be.
Well, no, I can see a little bit of trim on the old factory building in the military warehouse. It's more like, it actually looks more like a cardboard box, whereas the old factory one is like a mechanical box.
Do you know what it reminds me of? Did you ever do 40K as a kid?
Oh yeah, Warhammer.
Yeah, I love Warhammer, and I used to always build stuff, obviously, for my orc army back in the day, and I'd build it out of cardboard boxes. So Guns of Boom have given me a pleasant memory there of building military warehouses out of small, what are they called? The crisps that I struggle to get my hands in.
Oh God!
You know the ones.
Oh,
I've forgotten.
Which ones? I kind of know. Are they like
tube? I can't remember. What,
oh
Pringles.
my God!
There we go.
Wheat Crunchies.
No, Pringles.
Wheat. Oh no.
Yeah,
no.
Wheat Crunchies.
No,
Are they a brand?
Wheat Crunchies. That was actually a tube. They're actually a tube-shaped crisp.
Oh wow.
Have you never seen Wheat Crunchies?
No.
What? They've been in the UK for like my whole life. How have you not? We're like the same age, right?
Probably.
This is a conversation for another time. I'm gonna have to roast this man down the line for missing out on his crisp game. But what we're not gonna be missing out on is this wicked sick match we're about to see here on the military warehouse. And I've got to say, for Black Bulls, they've been very inconsistent since the European Invitational, and a big part of that, I think, was that maybe sometimes they haven't been entering cups, maybe they've been just messing around with different strats, different team members, because at the end of the day, if they were guaranteed, they are the only team before, we had the end stages that were guaranteed, because they won the European Invitational right here, that very event. Now, they've kind of had that luxury of being able to just pick and choose, they haven't had to enter tournaments, they've been able to kind of just mess around a little bit, but it has to be said that right now, they have to bring their A game. Because you can't go into the Season 1 finals as a team that's been consistently losing, right? The Black Bulls are like the team to watch because they were the original champions. So, you want to make sure they can win this tournament before they go to America to say, hang on a minute, guys, we're still on top. That's what's going to matter here. And if they lose now, it's going to be a bit of a knock to the confidence, I think.
It's also a kick in the teeth for a sort of an in-game leader like Lord Mano as well. As when we were at the event, he was the only one that sort of seemed to set a precedent of actually understanding very well how to be an in-game leader to the next level, right? Where online we sort of saw where there was some sort of cohesion. We saw where in some teams it seemed like there was a sort of a set caller, right? And they would work around his calls and be very set in stone. The only team that really did that effectively was Black Bulls. Obviously at the time, under a different name, the artist formerly known as Yakuza Esports, now rebranded. When they were there, he was very much in charge. What he said when everyone followed him, his law was set in stone and that was it. And that was the best sort of strategy we saw that entire event. The other team that seemed like they had strategy was Jug. They completely fell to pieces, right? And that goes back to the point we spoke about earlier, is playing not to win, but playing just so you don't lose. That's sort of what came across from them. They couldn't really outsmart them. They weren't able to beat them. The calling that was coming across from Lord Mano was too hot to handle. He was outsmarting them at every angle, was one step ahead of them, and they mentally just took it way too heavy and broke. Whereas Lord Mano, when his teams got frustrated, he was able to keep them very calm, keep them in the moment. I mean, we saw ourselves, him sort of sitting there between those games being like, boys, look, keep it together, don't worry about it, we're gonna be fine, there's another map. And I feel like they're a team that can, they can step back up into this run. He'll be able to calm them down, get them back pumped into the game, and we'll see. And it is very similar. Look, if you cut off those alleyways, it's the same map.
But again, we were looking at Lord Mano's weapon combinations, and it's still a typical strategy. Having that scout rifle that grants you increased movement speed, using it to go from point A to point B much quicker, and they've been sticking together. Here's the big one. The first group fight happens, it's Gonza taking out Excellence, and wow, that's almost an entire team wipe here. And it is indeed a full team wipe back-to-back, an easy, uncontested 72 points. That is a horrendous start of your Black Bulls.
Yeah, not great. The Bulls have been wrangled. They've been taken down to the pound. It's not looking too fantastic, but can they try and step back into it? Aggression coming through, and it's a pretty fair trade. They pick up 3 frags. They eventually get punished by one man in Gonza, but Romeo will be able to overthrow him. And they do keep it close. It's 84 to 58, so they're not too far behind. But Romeo, trying to go for something sneaky. Doesn't really work out.
I gotta be honest, I really don't like that. I see that all the time in these GO4 Cups, where a player will try and essentially Rambo it and set a trap, and they try and sort of surprise a team, and they just eat dirt every time. Like, the buddy system is so strong in this game, it really surprises me to see a player sit around a corner and expect that there won't be 3 people of the other team just waiting for him. Like, you're just giving up kills for what's not really going to be much of a reward. You'll probably trade it at best. Just be more patient, stick with the team. I really want to see less, sort of big play ambushes because they just don't work. They almost never work.
Well, fundamentally, the Rambo play doesn't really work in this game, right? Because everyone's got armor on a spawn.
Yep.
You've also got spawn protect, and the maps are very small. So at most points, you are sort of pushing into their spawn if you go for an aggressive push like he did. And the health regen's relatively fast. So it doesn't really matter even if he does damage. They're not going to be low. You know, it's not going to carry over. It's not like CS. It's not like you're going to be able to not regen for the entire round. You'll be left in a really horrible position. So it just comes back to bite them a whole lot more. And you can see the knock-on effect as well. They're now quite staggered on the spawns, not really in a great position to help each other out. It now goes to 260 there to the 189 of Black Bulls, and they're quite far behind. Remember, they're the team that need to win this to even stay in this best of 3.
Exactly, and that's a clean double kill. John Wick and Migs destroy them one at a time. Konza falls to Lord Mano. It's not going to matter too much just yet. And I'm just looking at a steady lead for back-to-back. Normally when two teams are completely deadlocked, it tends to be super back and forth, very, very even scores indeed, but it just hasn't happened in this first semi-final of the day. Killing Machine finally gets taken out, but not before he gets a couple of impressive headshots. Now it's Gonza trying to lay the trap. A bit more effective now they've staggered the spawns though. Like if you know they're spawning at different times, you have a better chance. Unfortunately it didn't work out. Romeo absolutely annihilates Migs. But I'm sure his position has been coordinated to the rest of the team. Just another clean sequence. Gonza getting 2 kills. John Wick cleaning house. Killing Machine doing just that. Finishing another one. And danger territory for Black Bulls, it seems. One more map down and they're going to be out of this tournament, out of our final GO4. And I don't know. They've got to pull off a big comeback here. Otherwise, it's an easy 2-0 for back-to-back.
Yeah, this is over. There's no way. Black Bulls are out of this. They've just been absolutely manhandled. They have been destroyed by back-to-back into this one. And you can definitely see which side has had the most improvement going into this. It's weird, Black Bulls just not looking like themselves. I mean, Excellence right now performing the worst on the side of Black Bulls, and in reality, he's normally one of the better players stepping up with the rifle, but just not doing too much. That is going to be the victory as well. So back-to-back, they just 2-0 them in a matter of seconds. And that, I mean, you know, they won Poland. They were the champions there.
That's definitely one way to start a stream. That's what I'm going to say. Back-to-back. They have had a steady climb. They're always kind of known as being the slave to the second place. And we just haven't really been able to see back-to-back really step up to that champion level status. But as of recently, that has started to change because of these players. They've been stepping up to the challenge. They've been grinding. They've clearly been practicing an absolute ton. But the big thing is they've been sticking with very, very similar team members too. They've not really been mix and matching. They've been going with pretty much the same guys every time. And I think that does bring its rewards the longer these leagues go on. Now, back-to-back have been able to take the first win of the night. Of course, you know, commiserations to Black Bulls today. We'll be seeing you in the 3rd place playoff to maybe play for a little bit of cash. But it's, if they're going to lose, at least they're not out of the runnings. You know, we will be seeing them at the Season 1 finals. We'll be seeing them play in America. They still have their big tournament to practice for. This is not the end. But it definitely is going to be somewhat of a knock to the confidence, I think. Especially seeing as the lineup they've gone with. I'm pretty sure that's the lineup that they're taking to America. So they now know that they're not going to be completely untouchable. And every team that goes to a big finals kind of wants to be the one that everyone's fearing. I'm not sure they're going to be feared as much after this. I
don't think they look scary throughout the online season either, though. But that was sort of through no fault of their own, obviously, as we spoke about and tried to decrypt at the time of what they were possibly up to. It seemed like they were subbing in different players, right? Yeah. Because they already had a spot. So they were either trying to field subs for in case they possibly ran into a visa issue and couldn't actually get to the finals for some reason, which would be, you know, a horrible situation to be left in. So maybe they were trying to build up backups for that, or just trying to see who was good as a replacement if they did just want to try and switch someone out. But overall, that's, you know, sort of the old boys, the core squad coming back for this one as a last hurrah before the event, and they didn't seem mind-blowing. It seemed like they had kind of fallen out a little bit of love with the roles they played. However, a big picture in Guns of Boom, which is a different one, is the fact of game modes. We only saw TDM there. That is the only thing we saw played out. In the past, it does seem like it comes down to game modes that are more based around a control point, an objective, where Lord Man and his squad seem to do better. They need that extra bit of advice and obviously being able to know when to rotate off to control points or just when to sort of back up. They're very good at that. When it comes down to just the raw 1v1s, you're probably playing against one of the best teams that can do that, right? Killing Machine himself normally pops off incredibly whenever they play TDM. So not surprising really that they've probably been able to overthrow them. Maybe just a bit of dust on the phone. You know, the cobwebs need to be blown out. Who knows?
Yeah, I think that's definitely one of the big things to take away is that potentially TDM is just a sort of game mode they're not a huge fan of. So as they go into the finals, map vetoes might be their biggest asset, something they're going to have to sort of really try and get in the mindset of. But that's going to be our first semi-final. We have the bracket up next to show you who the next matchup is going to be. And here it is. It's going to be Elements, Pro Gaming, and Zato. So Zato were able to take out Pro 100, and Elements Pro Gaming were able to take out CHEETAH. So we're going to be seeing these two teams. I must admit, I have not seen either of these two teams play.
No.
So I'm interested, very interested indeed, to see how this is going to play out, and I believe we're moments away from it. So right now we know not black to back. My word, there's so many different words here that I get mixed up on, but it's back to back in the grand finals guaranteed, and it's going to be either Zato or Elements Pro Gaming. I'm excited to see as we're sort of reaching the end. I believe neither of these two teams are actually confirmed at the finals, so it's an opportunity for us to see them play, get them out there, get them some exposure, and if they're actually able to win, then that's going to be most interesting as well. We have the Vetoes up next. We'll find out what the maps we're playing on. Farming Complex and Old Factory. So it's Old Factory again. This is pretty favoured at the moment.
Yeah, it's weird. It's a map we haven't seen once the entire time up to this point.
And this is when it was last time. We just missed it.
Oh, yeah.
You know, we didn't do the last show. It's probably like...
Yeah, it's probably Harry the entire time.
Maybe Lethal made it possible. He went, yeah, guys, I love the Old Factory. Yeah. Like, can we put
Back in my Halo days.
Back in my Halo days, Old Factory was
Old
where
Factory
it
was the #1 map for me. That's when we said, Halo Harry, get back to Halo.
And then Farming Complex is up next, which is going to be going back to traditional. One of the most popular maps, I believe, Farming Complex, back when it was in the preset rotation, and even as it goes into the Vetoes, we still see it creep up in the runnings. We see players favour it because it's just nice, outspread, very big, important map for the game, the capture points, because teams like using their brains as well. Team Deathmatch is fun, but anyone can TDM. Anyone can have a good day and just get franks, right? But I think Farming Complex and Wild West, anything with an objective, that's where you can't really random it out, right? You've got to be on the ball all the time. You've got to be thinking better than the opponents. And that's not as likely in TDM. But we're going to be starting things off with this Farming Complex. As follows, we can see, oh no, we do see some of them. Hot Pepper, I recognize. Because I know that it's, Elements Pro Gaming, I assume, sorry, forgive my ignorance here, but Elements Pro Gaming must be a team that existed before that Elements Pro Gaming has simply acquired. You know, we're seeing teams get involved in the Guns of Boom GO4. I will be honest, I feel like teams really should have got involved way earlier because there's been so much money for these teams to play for. It's surprising there's been, I think, such little sort of general esports team attention, because there are a lot of these teams that do really well. You got to pick up a couple of them, just get some money behind your org.
I mean, especially like in the American scene, right? When we had the build-up to LA finals, would have been absolutely worth getting some, people on that. That's like Pro 100, one of the orgs they knocked out, I believe, is owned by one of the old Virtus Pro players from the CS team. So that's quite an interesting org that has been able to pick up a team for this game. So they are branching out. Also, when it comes back to the talk of Halloween themes, we have Quark, obviously with the Ratchet and Clank throwback. He's gone for a thumb that looks sort of undead, so I'll give that some Halloween points on the spookiness.
It's like if you mixed Frankenstein with the end of Terminator 2.
It's quite good.
That's what I think it is. Evil Raven as well from Max. How about that?
Obviously, Frankenstein was actually just the name of the doctor.
It is, yes. Yeah. No, it's Frankenstein's monster. That's what I should have said.
There you go.
I should have been more
call you out
punctual. Yeah, I respect it, mate. This is the month for it. But double kill for Kunzit. I'm really sorry, I mispronounced that name at the beginning. I'm really bad with new team player names.
Kunzit.
It takes me a while to get into it, but we're good now because Kunzit just died.
Classic Kunzit.
Now, do we say Bon or Bon underscore? That's what I wonder.
Just the Bon.
Ice underscore Shaft. No, not Shaft. Scarf. Scaft. Shaft is going to go down.
Yeah. Classic team comprising of Shaft, Kunzit, Bon and Ice underscore.
Ice, baby. But it has been a pretty intense match so far. Zato leading the charge with this one, an impressive amount of points, just over 200 in the lead here. And, I think that you can really make a comeback to control all the points, which is seeming to be a little bit difficult. That tends to be Elements. They have 2 points now. It's going to come down to how well they can hold them, because at the moment the brutal kill is going to come through. Kunzit takes out Quark. That's going to be a complete trade, though. And they're starting to somewhat sneak back, but it might not be enough. Remember, guys, it's not first to 1,000 in control points. It's first to 1.2k. So we still have a little bit left of this map. Oh, a triple kill, too. I know. Elements back in it. Absolutely doing well. Hot Pepper's going to take this point. Sees it for his own, but unfortunately 2 other members of Elements have dropped, which is going to allow Zato to run in and take what is theirs. And now it's going to be from complete domination to a group action here from Zato. Elements sneaking in at the last possible second. Quark drops Bon. I'm wondering if this is going to be enough. Things have become a lot more closer now. But I think it's going to be coming down to the group fight, who can get the best frags.
They've done a good job of defending at least 2 points the entire time here, but the back cap is coming through. However, I think it is a little bit too late. They are pretty much neck and neck, so it does come down to this C flag on who will actually pick up the game here, most likely. Elements ticking ahead slightly further. They're in a really good spot. They actually do finally take the lead. So Zato from the back to actually now being in the advantage. They've got it here, Ryan.
Bam! Just like that. They steal it away at the last possible second. Almost went completely pear-shaped for the Zato squad, but I think it just came down to the last crucial frags at the very end. We normally talk about how in control point, it's really not about the individual kills and the individual points that you can score, because it's always about the natural ticking down of a point that you own. You know, normally in something like King of the Hill, where you get a little bit of a ticking down point system because of owning a point, but it's always going to be coming down to sort of those big combos and those big clusters of points you can earn. Not the case in control points usually, but if there's 50 each way to win the match, then maybe that's where those individual kills are going to actually make a significant difference, and we clearly saw there that's what happens.
Yeah, that's sort of the difference, right? You know, you can try and hold both points for pretty much the entire of the match, but you still need to be able to back that up with the frags when it comes down to the nitty-gritty and the crunch at the end of the game. Again, you know, it came through, and it did look quite effective from one side. However, Elements, they weren't able to defend it at the very end. C flag was quite important. And that's why that map is one of the weird ones, right? Because it is actually quite easy to defend the majority of the flags. We saw him trying to go for the triple cap there at one point, because the spawns are far enough away that you can pretty much happily do it.
And I think also, you kind of put things into perspective. There were quite a few significant 1v1s that were lost from Elements, and I think that's kind of what happened because we were down to the final little cluster of points. It was actually about 50 or so. When they lost 3 1v1s in a row on the separate points, if one of them maybe were able to win the fight, maybe things would have been differently. You know, it's always terrible to look into a hindsight thing because no one ever wants to hear hindsight when you know what could have worked. But it puts things into perspective when one team just out 1v1 at the last second. That's the only reason they won. You take the control points and you remove them, and it's just 3 people in a line that say, I win, I win, I win. That's it. We earn the kill that way. But I think that's the last time we see control points now. We're going to be seeing the old factory coming back to it. I can't unthink Lethal now. Yeah. So I made that remark. I'm like, it's like Lethal Factory, isn't it? That's what it is. The Lethal Factory, his house. Hi, guys. You alright, guys? Alright, guys, what's this old factory? I didn't see it last time. Oh. No one in this chat is going to get this reference because he's done one. We saw him last time.
Classic Lethal.
Come back, clap, clap. That
Vintage
Lethal
Halo
guy.
Harry.
Vintage Harry. But we're going to be seeing him a little bit later. Old Factory is up next, which we saw earlier. It's basically the map size, really, isn't it? It's the fact that there's not a lot of room to really maneuver. It's one of the maps that plays, I think, very traditionally to how it's designed. Some of these maps, you sort of see them approached a little bit differently. There are certain parts of the maps that maybe don't get used because they're seen as not useful or maybe not practical. You might not sort of have an angle on one of the maps that you might have thought would be designed purely because in competitive they just favor somewhere else. Whereas on Old Factory, I find it really does sort of go nice and traditional. We saw a lot of that from Killing Machine previously in the series, where you go up the stairs, you've got the balcony. That is the designated sniper spot. You go down the bottom, that's the designated shotgun and close quarters spots. And just because this is a competitive setting, it doesn't mean that you shouldn't approach the map the exact same way.
That is very true. And it's interesting, obviously, you know, as we sort of harped on before, it is very, very similar to Military Warehouse. It's essentially the same map. It's kind of like...
Old Warehouse.
Yeah, it is. It's the older Warehouse, right? It's the one from the time that the land that time forgot. That was a good movie.
The Lost Land.
Yeah.
The Lost Land. But Old Factory, well, I believe actually we've just been told we're going to be jumping into things. So this is another one of those interesting storylines for me. It's going to be which team is going to be facing off against back-to-back to see, is it going to be a confirmed team that wins the final cup, or is it going to be a team that wasn't confirmed at all, but could at least end today knowing that they had the stones, they had the stuff, but just weren't able to get the points they needed.
Well, Bon has just been cut to pieces. He has been cut into segments like an apple, and Ice as well has suffered the same fate from Quark.
And that's a fast turnaround for Elements, but after they've won this fight, they don't have a lot of stack left over. No armor.
Oh, well.
However, a wonderful grenade from Max. Very, very well played.
That
was the worst grenade I've ever seen. From one great grenade to let's just chuck it at a wall. But Shrapnel gets a killing spree. And look at the divide of points. They have really turned things around. And I think they're trying to send a message of, hang on guys, we had a terrible map, but that's not how we normally play.
So the thing is, there's literally 3 lanes on this map, right, of like where you can go. You can go down the middle, on the far left-hand side, or on this right-hand side where they're holding the choke point. And they were pretty much just sat there, comfortable, absolutely happy because they had nades, they still had armor, just spamming them as soon as they come out spawn because they just have clear vision on them. They've now finally been beaten over, but I feel like that's going to be the knock-on effect we see. Look, you can see the opposite team now doing the same. They're going to hold that one choke point, use their nades. As soon as they run out of armor and grenades, they'll probably die.
And that's almost like a guarantee in TDM. Like it kind of goes back to the size of the map that I talked about. There's not really a lot of cover. That's one of the big things here is that well, it's going to be who is quicker on the draw. And so far, Elements have been making it look like easy stuff. Quark's going to be surprising people from behind.
Ooh,
unchallenged. Gonna get another one. Oh, the double! That was easy money. They got stuck reloading right as Quark surprised them. There was no way they could fight back. Wonderfully executed surprise there from Quark. Oh, Hot Pepper trying to keep them pushed, but just kind of eating dirt for his trouble. And now it's going to be Kunzit. We can see trying to pick an angle, but they're being very, very defensive. I actually think they're almost being bullied, aren't they? Trying to surprise, but Knife is going to be all he has there. The trade comes through, but as long as Elements hold a lead as impressive as this one, the trade is going to be in their favor. Wow, the 3-piece. Every side, nowhere to run.
That's the thing though, right? You can see again the error of their ways there, where they've gone far too aggressive, only 2 of them actually left at that point. Their entire team's died, they carried on pushing. Sure, you found that kill, but then you've then given away another 2 frags for nothing. After you get those first couple of kills, just fall back, wait for your teammates, just hold the sides of the map. Because that's clearly what we're seeing being the better strategy here. 3 players running around together, just holding either side of the map, just sitting on the angle, and 1 player just sort of lurking and roaming around.
Sounds like it gets saved. Able to sort of fight back just a little bit, but as Elements complete this climb of their points they're currently holding, it's hard to make a comeback in Team Deathmatch, especially on a map that is as back and forth as this. You're noticing that, you can die and then immediately spawn, and within 10 seconds you're back in the action. That's just the nature of these smaller maps. So if you have a really, really bad start, it almost feels impossible to climb back. They are trying to play a little bit more defensive now. They're trying to not get caught out by Elements, but I think the counter play here from Elements has been, if they want to sit back and be defensive to try and, not concede many kills, we're now just going to pull out our ranged weapons. And we'll try and sort of out-snipe you, as it were. Because if you can out-snipe them from far away and you've got a lead, that's just another way for you to get the lead even bigger.
Yeah, and it's working so well. Look, you can just see everyone just sitting pretty, just going to be holding their angles, tagging them up and bagging them, as everyone will go down pretty effectively. They're just way too far behind in terms of the point gain here to actually win this one, so Element surely will have to take it. It's 470 to 336 of Zato's current points, so it's unlikely they'll actually be able to bring this one back and lock it down. There's a small number of points left to go here for Elements. They'll take the series 1-1 and then push us to that 3rd map.
I think it's almost a complete guarantee, and it will be. Indeed, the win goes through. Now it's going to be 1-1. Significantly closer than our first semi-final, that's for sure. And, I got to be honest, this is what I want to see. I want to see if one of the teams that is not confirmed at least has what it takes to win a cup. Yeah. Because that's going to be a really interesting turn of events if that's what happens. That one of the teams that is confirmed for finals doesn't win the last Streams Cup. It's like, well, what's going on there, guys? What's happening? Either way, Wild West Saloon is our final map. We get to see that a little bit today. Very fast and furious is this map. King of the Hill is, well, pardon the expression, but it's the Wild West. Anything can happen. It's aggressive. The point earning is quick. And because you can go from spawn to point so quickly on Wild West, it seems to be quite hard to hold the point. So when we take these really talented teams that can win by a snowball effect, it really isn't easy to lock a team down. And you really need to sort of be the cream of the crop to be able to do it. Can either of the teams do it now? I wonder. Yeah, that is very true. And obviously on a map like Wild West, any damsel that's in distress better be out that dress when she meets Jim West. That's sick. I felt like that was on the fly as well. Yeah. I felt like that wasn't predetermined at all. He hasn't just been sitting there the whole time, just getting it. Just thinking about. If you fumbled that would have been the most funny thing. Thinking about Will Smith. Oh yeah, the best, yeah. Sir, with honours. But yeah, Wild West Saloon. It's, as I kind of said earlier, it's very sort of heavily built around sniper rifles and shotguns combined. You can make the big plays on this one, but importantly, it's one of the only maps in the game that I think really is different depending on which half you spawn on. If you sort of spawn on it's hard to sort of point, but if you actually look at the graphic there, the team that's just in the background to the right, that set of buildings, which is one of the respawn points, the team that spawns on that side of the map kind of has access to that little bit of like a sniper alley.
Yeah.
So right as the opposite team is trying to run into the point, there is this magical angle that if someone has a really quick charging sniper rifle that does big damage, and they have the execution to land headshots, it's a dangerous angle to try and fight. You can sort of hit the defensive point before one team can. So it's all going to be about who can get to the point the fastest, which interests me. I like it when maps aren't too symmetrical.
Yeah, it's a little bit different because obviously for the other side as well, you do have more cover to counter the snipers. You can hide behind the big piano. That's one of the main sort of points we see everyone fighting over. You also have the fountain as well that's a little bit on its side, and people would like to sit on the back of that. Players like Killing Machine sort of, you know, they sort of coined the angle where they'd sit on the back of the fountain, peer over the sniper rifle, sort of duck down and just go for that. So there is a lot of interesting things that can go down on this map, and there you go. You can see the massive fountain with a lot of wood on it, which is how I like my cover, with fountains and wood.
Hell yeah. Anyway, Kunza is going to be getting a couple of kills at the very beginning here.
Classic
but
Kunza.
not before Shrapnel delivers the triple kill. That's some easy money right there. And now the first capture is going to be in Elements Pro Gaming's favor. Zato looking to take it, but I feel like to try and take the point, they just gave away their position. That take that Elements let Zato take, that was completely guaranteed. That was a, let's let him take the point and give him the illusion of capturing and just close in. That was such an easy play.
Element's clearly proving as well they're so much better when it comes down to just raw firefights rather than an active hardcore objective. So with a map like this, where it's just King of the Hill, it's very easy to just be able to float around the point and still just play as if it's a game of TDM. The same concepts essentially apply, just be able to cover for each other, go for trades, be able to just hold far back angles and utilize the weapons that are more effective from how you're actually playing. So it's interesting to see that definitely coming across in their favor. Comes up towards the site, tries to do something, but he has been manhandled and his body will be left on the piano.
A very, very early lead for Elements, making it look pretty easy, I have to say. And it is kind of going, you know, it does come down to the fact they're so good at getting these kills. Quark takes Bomb by surprise, the grenade kill trades, and unfortunately, that's going to be back to square one as he gets one grenade kill, but takes out himself at the same time. The points he gained, he just lost.
This is rough. No backup from anyone there, actually, to jump on the point either. And the problem is, they're going so staggered. You can see this catch up. Look, there's like one guy.
Yeah, they're running in one at a time. This is such a mistake.
One member of Zato to about 3 of Elements for every push they go for.
How did Kunza not see him? He's right next to you, mate. Come on, turn around. But they're going to take the point together. Hot Pepper looking a little bit worse for wear as he drops very, very quickly indeed. Max tries to take another one. Is it going to be enough? They're blocking things off using cover, and the grenade trade at the last possible second. Finally able to get something off, but it's not enough. Elements just steamrolling this final map. If they don't win this map, I will eat my hat.
Do you have a hat?
No.
No.
But if I did, I'd eat it.
What type of hat would you have?
I don't know, man. A Halloween hat, probably. Pumpkin.
Like a little pumpkin hat? I'd like a pumpkin hat, to be fair.
A Halloween cap.
Yeah.
With a pumpkin on it. That's what I'd wear.
It's like a trucker hat, but it's a pumpkin.
Keep on pumpkin.
Just keep on pumping.
Oh, there's got to be an expression we would make, but not today! Elements Pro Gaming destroy this final map. And they're going to be in grand finals as well, where they'll be facing off against back-to-back. Thank you very much for playing, guys. Oh, hi.
Hello.
You didn't see that. I was not adjusting my ponytail.
A fumble with his hair.
I was not a fumble. I was going to adjust my ponytail. See, I've got the strats. I've got the strats for those that care. I'm sure none of you do. But when the thing is on, we're getting a team winning. I use that as an opportunity to adjust my ponytail and get myself back in, make sure there's no wispy bit sticking out.
See if you're
in
line.
Unfortunately, guys, you saw the puppet strings, so I guess it's over. We'll have to cancel it. But either way, I'm sure you guys like that. Completely invaluable piece of information. So that does mean that we're going to see a team that has not made finals versus a team that has. It was guaranteed anyway, but I'm excited. I'm excited to see how this happens. Let's have a look at the bracket and find out what the matchups are going to be. It's back-to-back, of course, and Elements Pro Gaming, who are going head-to-head. And it's going to be that final little storyline. We'll see if it happens. This does mean, though, that beforehand, it's Zato versus Black Bulls. I'm going to make the bold claim. I do think this third-place playoff is going to be a 3-0 for Black Bulls. I really think they're going to just stomp this one.
I'd have to agree. I mean, Zato isn't a name we're very familiar with. We've seen a lot of these teams that have been able to grind their way through, right? They don't really look too mind-blowing. Elements definitely being able to overthrow them there in the long run and look a whole lot better as a team. Going up against Black Bulls, if they do lend into the sort of maps that it seemed like Zato like playing, which weren't the TDM maps, right? They seem to be more favored of objective maps. They're playing right into the hands of one of the better objective teams we have overall in Guns of Boom, right?
Yeah, exactly. I kind of just think they definitely have the odds stacked against them, and I would be worried. But anything is going to be possible here on the final show. Black Bulls don't really have anything to play for now. They're going to get a little bit of money if they get this third place position, but they're not going to be thinking about this. They're going to be thinking about the Season 1 finals because this is their sort of end game. Whereas if you're Zato, this is your final chance to actually prove yourselves. So if you can take out one of the teams that is already confirmed for finals, you can at least end the Season 1 journey with the knowledge that you had what it takes to defeat a team that is already confirmed. So we're going up next. I just want to sort of confirm with Prussian really sort of like unofficially if we're going in for a break before this match or if we're just jumping straight in. Yes, that has been confirmed. Thank you very much, guys. Cheers. We're going to be going for a short break while we set up our third place playoff. So don't go anywhere. The ESL Guns of Boom GO4 finals. We'll be back in a few minutes. One. Hello everybody and welcome back. This is the ESL Guns of Boom GO4 finals and it's the third place playoff. Up next, Zato versus Black Bulls. We're expecting a 3-0 from Black Bulls because they are the team with the right stuff. And as I said, they are confirmed for the Season 1 finals, whereas Zato are not, which definitely means we have an underdog story on our hands. A best of 5, though, in the third place match means that we have some more opportunities, you know, to see some of the teams here. Maybe Zato can pull out the odd win here and there, or maybe they completely flip it on their head and take it. I'm going to be honest, if Black Bulls do not win this, it's going to be really confusing. If they don't win this third place and they can't get top 3 in the final cup, I'm going to be super confused. So I'm going to hold a little bit of bias here. I want to see the boys pull it off. But if there is an underdog story, this is the time to do it at the same time. My name is Ketchup, joined by Jackie. What are we expecting here?
I think it's going to be an interesting one. I feel like Black Bulls obviously should just be able to overthrow them fairly easily, right? I mean, you know, they're the Western Wranglers. They look a whole lot better. It's a newer side we're seeing in Zato. I think the first time I've seen them, probably the same for yourself, obviously, is that core squad. So it's definitely a bit of an interesting nuance to see pop up into these tournaments, because it has sort of been the same name set in stone, right, for the majority of it. We've seen a little bit of branching out here and there, but that was in sort of the mid portion of the season. So for it to now be the very last cup this time around before the Season 1 finals is quite an interesting one, that we have a new team that even made it to the third place decider, whereas normally it is those classic teams. But Black Bulls have to be strongly favoured just off sort of prestige and what they've achieved in the past alone. However, they didn't look mind-blowing in the matchup we saw versus Back to Black, the AC/DC Classic.
Yeah, I was about to point that out. We make the same mistake. When you're talking about back-to-back,
they've got very
the
similar
Black
names.
Bulls, they do. I've made that mistake as well. Well, that's definitely not the only mistake I've made when it comes to the Black Bulls. But the big thing here is, yeah, I know, it was really bad, wasn't it?
It was good. It was
that's
great.
a story
It was a great
that,
time.
yeah, that's definitely not a story for now.
Half an hour.
It's longer than it should have been. I've never struggled to record a piece of footage in all my life. Those recap videos that we do, where we recap the results with the teams and all that good stuff, I just had the hardest. I just could not get Black Bull's name right. And I just
fumble.
It was just tongue twisted over and over and over and over again. Maybe it's my accent, maybe it's where I come from, I don't know, but the important thing is that now your boy's getting it right. We're currently waiting on the vetoes to find out the maps that we're going to be seeing. And again, just to remind anyone that may have just joined the stream, it's best of 3, first to 2 maps in our semi-finals, and then the third place playoff, and the grand finals is a best of 5, first to 3 maps. That's naturally going to give us a lot more time to play around with, and some extra maps to give our teams, I think, more of an opportunity to show that they are the more dominant teams. You know, sometimes it's easier to win a best of 3 than it is to win a best of 5 because player fatigue. One thing to factor in, you know, it's a mobile game, right? Like it's an interesting way of having to play a competitive game when it's using a touch screen, and you kind of you've got to sit down.
You've got a bit of a hunch.
Right? Yeah, you've got to sort of hunch over. You've got to play, and it's a different sort of form of video gaming in general that a lot of people might not be used to. And then if you're a seasoned Guns of Boom player, of which many of these players are at this point, it means that, are you used to now sort of just being hunched over and playing? Do some people play on a table? Do
You
some
never know.
people
Maybe
play
at the
in
LA finals, it'll just look like a scene out of, what's the Disney movie? The Hunchback of Notre Dame.
Oh, because everyone's going to be
everyone's
like
just
super hunched over.
There'll be bells ringing and people just pulling cords. It'll be great. It'll be great.
But they'll be playing for a lot of money.
Yeah.
So it's totally
So
fine.
phone in one hand, bell in the other.
Every time you die, it should be a frustration thing of ding, ding. Just mess with. Actually, that's mind games. Messing with the other team. That's why.
Can I bring this bell on stage?
This massive one. He's got an entire team just carrying it in, or just maybe one of those little ones. But yeah, we're currently waiting on the map vetoes, guys. As soon as we know what the maps will be, of course, we will inform you. And I want to sort of introduce anyone that may have just joined our stream and kind of, you know, why we're sort of being easygoing, right? Why this is sort of like, you know, being a super chill event. Because the teams that have qualified for the Season 1 finals is already confirmed. We would spend many of these GO4 Cups talking about how, you know, it's about, we have future cups and weekly competition, and whoever wins this stream is going to feel, you know, really good going into our next qualifier and our next qualifier. We're not at that point anymore. We have reached a point where we already know what the teams are going to be, and this stream is just to get, you know, that last little bit of glory. So I would assume the teams are all taking it seriously, because they definitely should be. There's still money at the end of the day to play for today. But everyone wants to, I think, leave this tournament placing as high as they can as we go into our Season 1 finals, because it's all about morale. It's all about storylines, and you want to make sure you're the winner. No one wants to be the loser of the last tournament. When you're going to go and fly halfway across the world, be jet lagged. I hope our players have a jet lag day as well, by the way, because jet lag is savage, especially when you've got to play a video game tournament. But there's a lot of things that our teams would not have factored in for that.
That's very true. Top tip with jet lag for anyone that is going to be traveling for the LA finals. Remember, when you get on the flight, to set your phone time to the time of the destination you're going to, so that you know when to sleep and when to eat. There you go, little tip for everyone.
My strat is to, no matter how early or late it is, when you get in, you stay up and sleep their time. And then you have a really long, good sleep. And then the next morning, your natural body clock wakes you up at the normal time.
And you crawl out of bed into the shower.
The worst
thing. Maximum heat.
The worst thing that a player can do, or an individual that can do when you travel all that distance, is You do the trip, and if it's California for a lot of our players, it's going to be a long. Actually, especially for a lot of our teams,
like 14 hours average.
Russian
flight,
players,
probably.
yeah, it'll be like at least like a 14-hour trip for a lot of our guys. When they arrive, don't go to sleep. For God's sake, don't go to sleep. Stay awake, and then when you get to the hotel, sleep later in the day. Yeah. Go grab some food. You'll find the adrenaline's going to be popping because you're going to arrive. You're going to be hype. You're going to get hit by that wall of heat.
Be very warm.
You're going to get hit by that wall of heat that California, and it's like the industrial where all the taxis pick you up. And it's like, I can't breathe the smog. But it's worth it. It's a great time.
It is weird as well how when you're in America, you never really find the constant level of what warm it is. Because you go inside a building, you're freezing because the aircon's on maximum.
The
as soon as you go
aircon's too
outside,
good.
you just melt. It's just like, where is the balance? Where am I?
It reminds me of going to Las Vegas when you would realize that a car full of people, they shut the doors and they close the windows to keep the heat out. So the aircon actually works. The second you open the window, it's like, ugh, it takes you over.
Absolutely outrageous.
It takes you over.
Vegas is a whole different kettle of fish.
It's horrible, isn't it?
It's
weird, great, but it's horrible.
Yeah. It's a place that just shouldn't exist, fundamentally. Like,
people just moved into a desert one somewhere. Let's just put the Eiffel Tower here.
Should we just build this? We don't have water.
Should we just build a building and have a fairground ride on top of it? Should we
just do a big casino? Where? In the middle of the desert, of course.
Someone stopped and went, guys, I've got a great idea, right? I've got a great idea. Anyway, that's a story for another
That's
time.
the season 3 finals.
That's the season. Yeah,
Vegas.
It's on the roller coaster. Everyone has to play on the roller coaster with the phone.
There we go.
Just if you can play while strapped up, it's probably gonna be kind of difficult.
Just don't let go of your phone.
Just good.
Yeah, it's gone.
What a way to get disqualified.
Excellent.
No.
He's gone. He's gone to the win.
He's dropped his mobile phone. Someone save this man. He's got his backup.
Oh yeah, like a quick switch.
Quick switch. Maybe that might be some tech. Maybe a player will have 2 spare phones. I'm actually thinking of like the next level mobile gaming.
The next level of mobile gaming.
Yeah,
It'd be like Total Wipeout. They have to complete a segment of Total Wipeout, but whilst playing Guns of Boom.
I think our pros could do that though. I think that they're seasoned.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised if one of our pros could play this one-handed at this point. They're so good. Really, really.
From their experience of playing on the bed, playing in the chair, playing in the toilet.
And how many Guns of Boom pros may have played in the lavatorial facilities?
Yeah, it's true. I imagine that's where the majority of games are played. That's probably where you play your officials. Boys, I'm in the lav. Jump on.
See you in a bit. Yeah. For those that may be wondering, we're currently waiting for the map vetoes. So, the Black Bulls and Zato. Zato was sort of one of the newer teams you haven't really seen too much of. And Black Bulls, where they've got a legacy now. They were formerly known as Yakuza, and they've been here basically since day one. The very first GO4 Cup we saw Yakuza right in there. It was a top 3 game between back-to-back Jug Knights of Honor and Yakuza, and then essentially once we had it was after the European Invitational, we saw Yakuza take that win, and they guaranteed themselves for the Season 1 finals. They rebranded, they changed their name, they changed their logo, and now they are a bunch of new men. But when it comes to Zato, kind of what we talked about earlier on, where they're some of our newer team, we haven't really seen them play too much. We're kind of expecting Black Bulls to win this one pretty easily. That's what you would think, that's what should, quote unquote, happen here. But we're still currently waiting for that veto. So as soon as we know what the maps are going to be, of course, we'll tell you so far. I'd love to know what you guys have thought of the whole experience. So many of you tuning in. I'm sure you're Guns of Boom players. I'm sure you've been following this league. You've got favourite teams. You've got favourite players. Give us your favourites in chat. That's what I want to know. If you're in the chat right now for Facebook, if you're on chat for Twitch, I don't know if I can't remember off the top of my head if it's on YouTube or not, but I know Guns of Boom has a YouTube channel as well. Give us some information. Tell us your favourite player. Tell us the team you want to win the Season 1 finals. Who are you cheering on? Let's get a discussion going on.
Tweet in with your favourite dinosaur.
Yeah, my favourite dinosaur is a good old-fashioned T-Rex.
T-Rexes are good.
They are sick.
Probably.
Imagine being a giant predator and having arms literally this
very
big.
small.
It's like a bad joke.
Yeah. They're like the meerkat of the dinosaur world. They stand tall with small arms.
I can't remember what they used their small arms for. Was it so they could like?
So they can type?
No, well maybe.
I don't know.
So they can play Guns of Boom.
Yeah. Well, yeah, maybe.
That's what maybe.
The perfect dinosaur for Guns of Boom. Already hunched, hands close to the chest.
But their eyes can't look low enough down, I don't think.
Oh, they'd have to have their head on the side.
Yeah, it was like you're taking a phone call. Either way, what we do finally have is the map vetoes. It's going to be Wild West Saloon and Europe Street to start things off, Skyscrapers and the subway station, and if it reaches that point, we're going to be going to the military warehouse for our final map. So I just want to kind of confirm whether it's going to be Europe Street or Wild West Saloon first. Either way, we kind of know what we're going to be seeing right now. Have not seen Europe Street today, but we have seen Wild West, of which Wild West, I've just been told, is the first map we're going to be playing on. So I'm excited to see some Europe Street. Haven't seen it in a while. Subway Station is actually just ridiculously fast. Some of the absolute fastest maps we've ever seen in the GO4 history have come from the Subway Station. I think it's just the natural nature of the King of the Hill combined with extreme frag ability. And Wild West is, well, we saw it in our semi-final, didn't we? Wild West can be quick as well. Skyscrapers always seems to sort of come down to skyscrapers once or twice. And if we reach the military warehouse, you guys have seen that one before. It just comes down to who frags the best. So I believe now we have our vetoes. We're loading into our pro mode. We're going into Wild West in, well, as fast as possible. Of all these maps, Jack, I want to ask, what's your favourite map?
Oh, that's a hard one. I'm going to go for Paradise Island, probably. You know, out of the maps that are available on screen right now, Paradise Island would probably be my favourite, just because it seems to have the funnest games I feel like we've seen. Probably more of the, you know, sort of slightly more fast-paced, but a little bit more enjoyable. Good angles on there. There's a lot of fair firefights. I mean, it's pretty much just an open map. So, you know, it's interesting because obviously people kill each other a lot. Subway is also fun because it very much does sort of play like Metro from Battlefield 3. Essentially, when you get
I remember that. I remember that.
Because it's just so small, you know, there's very clear wide angles, but essentially just 3 lanes, one of them being a bit girthy than the others, the other 2 being sort of long boys, and you can just sit there and just shoot people, and that's essentially what you have. It's just quite explosive. A lot of grenades going off, a lot of just constant spamming. It's an interesting one. Any of the maps that have more aggression tend to be a little bit more enjoyable to watch.
I think any map that takes away from our usual program, right? You know, some of the maps, I believe, like Military Warehouse, for example, it's by design, of course.
Yeah.
It's not to take away from them, but they are a set size, and there's not a lot of scope for creativity for teams. You just need to be efficient. You just need to be good at playing that map. This is how we play. This is how we win, and then you do it every single time. I find certain maps like Paradise Island, so especially a map like Skyscrapers actually, which I think is one of the main reasons it becomes such a trend setter when it comes to the final stages of a map, because there are so many angles that you can take that you've always got to be watching. It's not just, I respawn and I look in front of me, that guy's going to spawn in front, and I just have to wait for him to poke his head out. Skyscrapers, it's way more vertical, there's way more angles to hit, and the center of the map in that little room where most of the fights take place, that's only one of many places a fight could happen. It could be in the left-hand side, it could be outside, and the action could be there too. There's a lot of opportunities to throw some sick grenade throws too. Yeah. Like you can really show your skill on a map like Skyscrapers, which I like a lot. But Wild West first, kind of similar, to be fair. We can sort of see a lot of players sort of pop off on Wild West, especially if you've got that sniper rifle. Plenty of good angles you can pull on that one. And then Europe Street is a lot more traditional. So again, Black Bulls, I reckon we'll see them take this one. If they don't win, it's going to be a problem for them.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, the more interesting thing is, right, in terms of the game modes, that we only have 2 maps that aren't TDM, and both of them are King of the Hill. So that's a limiting factor, right, for Black Bulls. If they're struggling when it comes down to just the firefights and they're not, you know, hitting their shots, they don't have that crutch to fall back on of the game mode there as a little bit of an assist for them. So could be a struggle. We definitely need to see their A-game. Excellence wasn't really playing as well as we normally see him. You know, he's normally the UK saviour. He pops off, but he definitely wasn't smoking as the previous one. There is a no smoking sign, but is he going to be popping off this time around?
Well, we are moments away from finding out as we're loading into the Wild West Saloon. Our first map here in this 3rd place playoff. Unfortunately, neither of our 2 teams is going to be seen in the grand finals. They did fall in the semis, but it's going to be about finding out which team is going to walk away with a little bit of cash. That good cash money as we go into the Season 1 finals. It's going to be the Black Bulls that really need to take this win just for morality's sake. If they don't get top 3 of this tournament, they've got to be a little bit concerned, I think, if they can't even win here.
Yeah, it would definitely be worrying. Also, I feel like they should rebrand to the Prancing Buffalo. I feel like that would be a better name than the Black Bulls at this point.
The Grand Hotels.
The Grand Hotels, Prancing Buffaloes.
Yeah, how about that? I just saw a pretzel machine, which I've never seen before.
Here's an interesting couple of little bits. Some security cameras there.
No smoking. That's what you talked about earlier.
Yeah.
The flies near the drink can't be too hygienic. And a map. I wonder what that map lead. Where does that lead?
Mordor.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
Look at the pretzel machine. There's a red pretzel, actually. That's pretty sick. I've never seen a red pretzel before. Here we go. Map loaded in. And it's now going to be an important match for Black Bulls. and it's going to be Scarf just getting the first blood, but they took a lot of damage to achieve that. So yeah, excellent. No reason he's going to overextend. Divine King just offering that support, of which Divine King easily cleans house and gets a couple more. Ice drops to Romeo, who also, Romeo takes out Bomb, which is very, very important early on, get a little bit of a lead, but it's pretty even here. I think they have the point, but for how long, that is the question.
You can see the differences here already from Black Bulls compared to Elements when we saw Zato play this map before, right? Already Black Bulls were very scared to try and push and take A site to open this one up. And they're not really holding defensive angles. They've kind of been quite staggered the entire time as well. And they're just being flanked by Zato, not really holding the correct positions. It's a bit weird. Black Bulls seeming like the one thing that set them aside from the other teams in the past has kind of gone out the window. They were the smarter team with Lord Mano as IGL last time around. Now they just look a little bit lost.
Which is kind of interesting to me. It's not something you would really expect, and Romeo's been able to get one, but that traded grenade throw is going to weaken him quite significantly. Of course, he's not going to be able to survive this fight now versus Scarf, who gets a double kill. Nice little reward of points, and seems to be escaping them already. They've just sort of been bullied away from their half of the map, which is never a good look. Divine King getting destroyed. Wrong place, wrong time there, buddy boy.
What was he even trying to do, though? I don't see what he was hoping to achieve there. You know, that's the difference of, you can hold that choke point, kind of like Romeo is now, but he's already overextending, right? He's just pushing in and exposing himself, and that's never what you want to do.
Well, Zato, they are somewhat starting to lose their lead. Actually, love the fact Excellent gets his killing spree. I feel like Excellent either does well or he doesn't. But if he does start to play well, the points just rack up. And he's looking good. 112 so far. Romeo putting in plenty of work as well. The straight up 2v1, no way you're surviving that one. I think maybe he was praying for a trade or something similar, but Black Bulls, they've been able to stop the bleeding just a little bit. They've been able to finally take away the win, and Divine King actually getting a kill with the scout rifle. Probably trying to run fast, but if needs must, you'll pull it out and get the job done. Ice gets that Thanatos takedown on Divine King, where Lord Mano cleans up Ice instead. And they're trading it. They're trading it back and forth here. Black Bulls have a lead, but it's not a very significant one.
No, it's not great. That nade as well towards the end gets another kill. And you can see the risk they're running. The different setup the Black Bulls are playing, rather than what we saw from Elements, is they're going to sit up on top of the saloon sign and shoot them as they come out of the choke point. So it's working a little bit differently. It's been a bit of a struggle as well, because they're not really hitting their shots, but they've now got themselves into a pretty nice position to actually close this one down towards the end. They're just going to be sprinting their way back up. And you can see the desperation now as well coming out from Zato. Not going for the flank anymore, not really pushing together. Very staggered, just going in one by one and hoping for a miracle.
Point A captured.
Now, staggering him one by one this late is quite a concerning thing to do. Scarf gets a triple kill, but not before he's been dropped. This has to be the end of the map, I think. Black Bulls is his first to 1,000. They would have to sort of royally screw up, I think, to not win this map with how much of a lead they're currently sitting on. And just like that, one more kill. Romeo gets it. Easy, mate. Black Bulls take the first map. And just like that, they only have 2 left to go to be our third places of this week.
Yeah, walk away with at the very least a third place, which isn't terrible. Still not what we expect a team of their caliber to be placing, really, but obviously they did have the much harder side of the bracket facing off against back-to-back.
They did, and that is one of the big things that we sort of, we can't ignore. Seeding makes a lot of sense, where, at the end of the day, it's how they placed in the lead up to this GO4. So if they didn't have the points and they get seeded accordingly, then it is what it is. But back-to-back, I think, are the strongest team of this week from what we've seen so far, and they definitely had a harder time. But that said, it was an interesting start. Zato had a very significant lead, and it kind of just slipped through their fingertips, didn't it?
It was a bit weird, and it was interesting as well, because it seemed like Black Bulls were actually sort of throwing it away. They were playing very aggressive. A lot of deep pushes that we don't need to see coming through. You can just sort of hold, defend an angle. You don't really need to overextend. That seems to be the one big thing that people still keep going for in Guns of Boom, which fundamentally you're not really set up for. The game doesn't support you in any way. Hero plays don't really work out. Majority of the time, if you can just stay alive and at least deal damage to support someone that's close to a killing spree, that would be the better aspect. Even if you've got no armor, just fall back, play around another player, and tell them that you're about to get your killing spree. Don't push and try and get it yourself. It's not going to work.
Exactly. I think there's only one player there's only one player out there that can really sort of make those big plays, and his name's Killing Machine. I think of all the players in this entire scene that consistently sort of pops off and just gets these crazy, crazy kill sequences, Killing Machine's pretty much the only one that's been able to do it consistently.
Yeah.
Like, he never has a bad day.
That's true, but again, he's also another smart player as well in the sense of positionally. That's why he's so good, because he'll always be in a position where, you know, he's out of the way of danger. He's also supported by his teammates, and if you're able to communicate that as well, and at least just come across in the calls that, look, I've already had 3 kills here, you know, I'm close, just cover me so I can actually get my killing spree. That's something you can definitely work into effect, right? Tag someone up, say they're low, he can get the last hit across. Because last hitting in a game like this does actually make more sense, right? It's kind of similar to a MOBA in the sense of, you know, sort of allocate who needs the kills more to get you a higher point gain.
And I think that makes so much of a difference, because if you are allowing someone to sort of get the last hit every time, that's a killing spree that you're not having to do single-handedly. Yeah. And if you're just a coordinated team, it's easy to set up. Now, Europe Street as our next map. I definitely do think I favor Black Bulls here, but they have shown us today that Team Deathmatch is not their forte. They had a really, really hard time against back-to-back earlier because TDM they were just getting out-fragged, and that's all there was to it. So whether they're going to continue things on Europe Street remains to be seen. We'll find out in due time. Shouldn't be too long to get into this lobby and to be up and running. But if this is a 2-0 for Black Bulls, it would be safe to assume that Skyscrapers being our potentially final map, you would expect a 3-0 if they can dominantly take Europe Street.
Yeah, I mean, if they win on this first TDM, it's very similar, right? All TDM games pretty much go the same way. The difference is the map, and even then, it's only slight changes to how teams play. This one is one of the more interesting ones with Europe Street, because it very much is just pretty much 2 straight lines that are mirrored, and you have full, complete vision to shoot each other the entire time. There is no real downtime on this map. So, out of everyone, if they're able to perform well here, they should do very well on Skyscrapers and shut down the series. Try and walk away with the 3-0. They're expected to as well, so that's also going to be a weight on their shoulders, right? You drop a map versus a different team here, you know, the last week before finals, people might be looking at this and just going, all right, well, they don't seem ready for finals. You know, it seems like there's something wrong with the team right now.
Either way, they're going to have plenty of footage to study, and now we're loading into Europe Street, and we can already sort of see that sniper battle. That's the aim of the game here on Europe Street. Got plenty of distance to get the job done, and now Ice spilling first blood. He got the first blood last time, actually, I'm pretty sure. And that's just through good positioning. Standing particularly still, though. I actually kind of worry if he's going to leave himself out in the open, not moving at all. But Scarf gets Divine King. Right now, the distance is going to be in Zato's favor.
So they've officially traded what side of the map they own. And it is just left in the 4 versus 4. Going to try and re-aggress, but Divine King is the only one there. See, now this is where Black Bull starts to run into issues as well. When they try and take a 1 versus X firefight, and for some reason they don't just play as a squad, it all falls to pieces. I mean, there's a backstab from Romeo, but again, he is the only one in the back line, and it just goes wrong. Oh my god,
this has been a horrendous match for Black Bulls, and Zato just been popping off. That's a killing spree already. Have a look at that lead. Remember, guys, this is first to 500. These can be pretty small matches, especially if Zato are exploding the way they are. Romeo, he's been able to pick someone but not quite get the angle he was looking for. No damage taken in. Very important, actually, for Romeo to get that, which means that now anything he gets is going to be an increase, double kill, triple kill, etc. And he's now been given a head start by taking no damage at all. Bon using that respawn protection to absorb just a little bit, but it's not enough. That grenade's definitely going to do... Oh, no, never mind. Lands a little bit too far away. And, oh, tries to be sneaky, but can't quite get it.
So, you know, it was a very rough start for Black Bulls, but at least they've been able to try and peel it back ever so slightly. However, Zato definitely have the advantage into this matchup. They've been able to have good positioning, smart use of flanking as well, and they're winning the majority of the 1v1. So Bon popping off again, the shotgun's just reigning supreme in the close range combat. Romeo's really been the difference maker, but even then, he's not performing too incredibly. Only 58 points to his name, so a bit of a thorn in their side, but easily removed when they need to.
Now things seem a little bit more traditional here. Both teams trying to be a little bit more careful, but Zato just taking the fight better. Excellent. Does manage to take one, but he's put himself in harm's way as Ice is able to trade him out. Unfortunately, he eats a grenade, so that's going to be a pretty easy pickup for whoever can catch him in their line of sight. Lord Mano now trying to be a little bit sneaky to get some information, but the one thing about Guns of Boom is that a lot of sound effects are global. They're not necessarily based on where you are, so it can be kind of hard to determine whether someone's next to you or whether they're on the other side of the map. And that's one thing I think you need to use your game sense as a high-level player for this game, is to just decide, if I heard a sound effect, where was I likely to hear that?
Yeah, that's the thing. It all comes down to sort of your in-game game sense of learning the game, being able to understand it quite well. Also helps you decision-making here, but that's a very one-sided firefight charging into another player. Bit of a fumble with the grenades as well from Excellence. It's not looking amazing for them. And you can see overall, Zato still have the incremental lead. And they're going to be able to keep it going as well. Ice realizes there's a player flanking, And this is now the reign of this shotgun we're seeing come into effect as well. It seems like the meta's overall just favored it so much now. First time we've really seen a weapon sort of come into the rotation and look quite dominant. I haven't really seen it too much up until this week, but the kill feed seems to be full of it, Ryan.
Yeah, and every time sort of new weapons get added to the game and players start using some of this new equipment, it kind of makes sense that people start to experiment. And if it has a place in the game, we saw that with the Barracuda. Before then, it was all Thanatos. Whereas now the Barracuda's in the game, we start to see more people favor one or the other. And I'm glad to see a little bit of variety here in the shotguns, because it pretty much was entirely just Porcupine back in the day. And now there's going to be a little bit more variety there too. Lord Mana, you got to be so dead. Oh, never mind, you got one. Got one brutal kill, which is going to be something, but don't call it a comeback. It's possible, but they've got to be careful now. I'm eyeing up the fact that there's no armor. Uh-oh! Oh, watch out. Excellence. Watch out. I'm so worried about him. Oh, he gets a kill, but it's not going to be enough. Zato take their map win. And it's not going to be a 3-0. So signs of life from Zato, absolutely.
So the worrying point is there, you know, as we touched on, if Black Bulls won that, then fair play. They're going to be ready for some TDM. They'll be happy to actually take those matches, but they did not win that. And they looked pretty sluggish for the majority of it as well. You know, it was pretty much Romeo just going for sort of flanks from the rear, hoping that he'd be able to open it up, get one kill, get traded. At that point, you know, his other 3 members just on the other side of the map just sat there. It was pretty much just down the middle divided. You know, you'd have 3 players here, 1 player from the other side. And that is all we saw the entire time. It just looked a bit shaky and was not good enough. You know, it wasn't a system that was going to win the game for him. And that's what we saw come back to haunt him in the end there, right? So Zato, they walk away with that one. They're going to be pretty happy. Obviously, that's 1 map now against the current reigning champions in Guns of Boom. And the scary factor is that it's pretty much just TDM to go.
It is indeed. Our next map is going to be Skyscraper. So I think Black Bulls, they've been showing us today that they have been having quite a hard time with Team Deathmatch. So if they lose Skyscrapers, they're just better pray. We'll obviously have to refresh ourselves on the map rotation after that. But anything that is even remotely like Team Deathmatch, they better pray that they don't encounter it afterwards, because if they can win the objectives but for some reason just can't Team Deathmatch today, even after today, that's something to think about. Because look, Military Warehouse is there too. So if, theoretically, they lose Skyscrapers and then they win Subway, our decider map is going to be a game mode they have had a horrendous time with today, which automatically takes the favor, which should have been in the Black Bulls' favor, to Zato, purely because they're struggling with the mode so much.
And it's rough as well, because Military Warehouse is a map they've already played today, and even then, they failed on it. You know, they didn't look good enough, so it's quite a harrowing position to be in when they get into that final map, if it does go that way. In terms of Skyscrapers, it's definitely a map they can play effectively. We've seen them in the past do it, but that seems to be all we're saying, right? Is in the past, Black Bulls have done this. In the past, they've achieved this. In terms of the present, they just don't really look that amazing right now.
The future is now old man.
Skateboard on the back.
How do you do, fellow kids? But yeah, so Skyscrapers is up next. On the flip side, if we do see the Black Bulls able to take this map, it's going to be just a morality boost, if anything, because they've been struggling massively with this game mode. They need some sort of sign of life to go, hang on a minute, guys, wait a minute. We are currently the champions of the game, right? That's the thing about the Black Bulls, is they are the only champions this game has ever seen so far.
Yeah.
So if they don't win this third place playoff, what's going on?
It's weird. It's really, really bizarre, because it's also the fact it's the entire team as well. You know, they're not switching things up anymore. They're not trying out different players. There's no rotation coming in. It's just the pure squad, but they're not really looking like themselves, and they've just been manhandled. Especially, I mean, TDM, it was never really their strong suit, but they could still at least play it effectively. We're just not really even seeing that today. It just sort of seemed quite one-sided the entire time. So a bit bizarre. Hopefully they can improve getting into this one, as we will be delving into Skyscrapers now between these two sides. They're currently tied up 1-1, and it is the best of 5.
Immediately, Divine King is looking to take an angle, but unfortunately, I think he's gone straight into ice. The important thing here is that even though there's not really communication in the regular matchmaking for Guns of Boom, there is no way that these teams are not in some sort of voice communication. It's probably going to be external, you know, Discord, TeamSpeak, whatever these guys want to use. But there is always communication. You can guarantee it, which means some of these decisions and some of these fast turnarounds, you won't see them in a regular level of play.
Yeah.
The second we sort of saw Divine King get clocked there, he took damage, but you know in their chat they went, oh, Divine King, left side.
It's the thing, especially in a game like this, because it is just about knowing when pushes are going to work. So if you can say, all right, well, 3 players with no armor, you know, they've used all their nades. You've just respawned. You know you're going to win that firefight pretty easily. And you know what you have to use equipment-wise as well, because maybe it's worth saving nades until they're all grouped up on the next respawn, use your nades then. just sort of about the decision making on it. And sometimes we do see teams, you know, understand that more and look better. Sometimes we do see players that just push in, fully overcommit. They're just standing where, you know, the only players they're going to be able to even hit have spawn protect still. So definitely a lot of leaps and bounds on the good and bad side of it.
Okay, so things are a little bit even, which is what we expect in Team Deathmatch. You know, we sort of see the trades here, Divine King, Scarfed. It's always going to be, I take one, you take one. Pushing a little bit too hard. I really do think that some of these guys do push a little bit too heavily in Team Deathmatch. You kind of don't want to walk into the respawn room because you fall victim to the respawn protection. If you fly too close to the sun, that's, you know, it's never going to end too well for you. A nice little double grenade to do damage, but it's not going to be enough to get the kill. He's going to drop now. Black Bull's barely with a lead, but it is a lead nonetheless.
It's not too bad of a position. They can still build from this, and they are actually finding frags as well. Lord Mano needs to spot out Bon. A little bit delayed. Luckily, he stayed alive long enough so the Divine Kid couldn't flank and actually get the stab off. But they overcommit. They're pushing out rather than falling back here and regrouping. So Ice gets a free kill. Scaffed as well is going to be able to come in and just completely annihilate Lord Mano. It's the overcommittal that is going wrong here from the side of Blackpool. Zato being able to hold their angles now. Not too far away from actually equalizing this situation. They're still just getting the free frags.
They're holding up shop in the center, but I'm wondering how much that's going to work for them. They don't have an impressive stack right now, do they? Only a little bit of the armor is gone. Bon is just horrifically weak. One quick little headshot will take him out. And I can see the patient play. It's all going to be who can sort of pick those shots. And what a team wipe there from Black Bulls, who now have a great lead to sit on. Almost reaching the end of this map now, looking good. More work needs to be done, but not a lot of time left to get it done. Bon takes down one. Signs of life, yes, but not enough. Excellent, cleans house. Romeo drops. Bon gets a triple kill. That's such an important bonus of kills there for points. Excellent spalls as well. If they can just keep Bon alive and allow Bon to get a killing spree, they're going to tie this up.
There you go.
And there it is.
Killing spree coming through.
Wonderful play. Is it going to be enough?
Ooh, well, they're close, but now they're over pushing. They're getting into a position where they're not really favored. Scarf needs to stay alive and get out of there. He's going to try and fall back, but I think he'll be traded, and this isn't going too well. Excellence as well, just popping off shots, hoping to connect to at least someone. As they're very close, it's 451 to the 420 as Zato. Let's see if they can blaze ahead from the position they're now in. As they start to get aggressive, Nade's going to be soaring across, hit with the airstrike. Doesn't really work. They're pretty confident to just keep on fighting. Comes as well, so low, but still just overextending. They're being picked off one by one, even when they're trying to play as a group. But they have pretty much got the advantage here, and Black Bulls should be able to lock it down. That's going to be 500 points picked up. They will go through as your victor there that time around. So on Skyscrapers, a map they're a little bit more weathered with, they do pick it up. However, still looking shaky on the TDM, which is scary.
The one thing to take away from that map, though, was Bon was single-handedly keeping his team in the fight there. Everyone else that had yet to sort of get 100 points, and Bon was at the end of that map sitting with over 200. So if he wasn't doing as insanely well, I don't think they would have had even as much of a close chance. So that's one thing that we have to sort of think about, is there was a real star performance there. But in Gun to Boom, it just feels like it's not really a game you can carry in. Everyone has to do well. If someone on the team is just really dragging their heels and not playing up to standard, unfortunately the team will suffer because of the nature of how quickly the kills can be turned around and how quickly points can add up. The important thing for Black Bulls, they've taken a map on Team Deathmatch, something they have for some reason really struggled with today, but they finally pulled this off. It's 2-1 in their favor, and we have the subway station up next.
That map should be an interesting one. Obviously, Subway isn't TDM. That is Control Point. So, well, King of the Hill, rather. So it is a little bit more in favor of Black Bulls. And maybe this is the lifeline they needed, right? You play Skyscrapers right before going into a game mode you're more favored in. Hopefully, they should be able to pick it up there and actually close it down, because otherwise it would be a bit awkward for them. They do lead now with an extra map in their favor. That is 2-1 on the scoreline. You win that, you walk away, you 3-1 it, that's fine. You know, drop in one map, it's an anomaly. Sometimes that can happen, it's not the worst thing in the world. However, if Zato do go on to actually now pick up, that'll be the last of the maps that favor Black Bulls. At that point, it would just be TDM left until the end. So Zato could actually upset here. They're still not out of the runnings just yet.
Actually, look at that, 14 kills for Bon. That's so much more than anyone else in the entire server in that case. But it just goes to show that it's not enough. Everyone else with 6, 4, 5. everyone else kind of had to pull their weight just a little bit more. I think you can obviously set up for kills that allows Bond to clean up. So it's, I'm not going to say that no one wasn't doing anything by any means. They could have been weakening and allowing Bond to pick up, which is, I think, what happened. Some of his killing sprees were obtained that way. But Subway Station, a map that we haven't seen today, but we've seen it a hefty amount here in the GO4 Cups. Small, confined, and it's like you said earlier, right? Those 3 alleyways that go forward. But Subway Station, it has the scope to sometimes just be abnormally fast. Because if you have one player that is having a game of their lives, or if you get team wipes constantly and can hold the center of the point, there's something about the rate of which you spawn and can go into danger to potentially die that in Subway just feels so much faster. I just feel like the map itself is smaller than almost any other map in the game. Yeah,
well, it's very tight angles, right? You don't have that much room to sort of turn around or flank on yourself. You're either fighting inside a train or just on the little tracks or in the slightly wider open space, which even then is still very restrictive because it's 2 sets of stairways. So your vision's restricted the entire time. All you know is there's going to be nades coming towards you, people potentially trying to snipe you, and you're trying to just sit in that little point in the middle. So it's a very interesting map. Quite claustrophobic, I think describes it well.
Well, as we load in, this could be our final map, or it's going to be just one map away from taking us into the all-to-play-for situation. Is it going to be a final game, or is everything going to end here in this 3rd place playoff where the Black Bulls really, I think for reputation's sake above all else, desperately need to get this win to feel good going into the Season 1 finals?
So here we go. Push comes down early. You have that one little bit of break in the line of sight towards the mid portion there. As they do capture the A site, they're going to be able to lock it down. And already it's looking quite good for Black Bulls. I mean, that's 160 to nothing of Zato. They finally get a kill on the board. It is a double. So Scaft making himself useful. However, Divine King's traded it back with a HE that has blown Kunza out of the server. And there's backcapping as well. Bond just been able to sneak in. Romeo takes him so long to finally work out what's afoot and end him. Now they've got a recap. So already the point trickle's starting to come back through. I mean, Zato, they're not too far behind. And Excellence as well, second-guessing himself there.
I think it's just sort of being a little bit uncoordinated. They don't seem confident in who's going to get what kill. And by the time they've not really been able to decide, hey, you're going to get this guy, I'm going to get this guy, one of them hasn't died. And then the team fight doesn't go in their favor either because they end up being outnumbered and it kind of goes from bad to worse. I feel like Black Bulls should have a significant lead right now, and they just don't. Zato should not have a chance right now, but it's just a couple of mistakes. However, the recovery, it's good. They're sticking together. Bond. Bad position here. He's trying to use the cover, which I definitely agree with. Here we go. 2 kills go down. Excellence survives. But for how long? I think he's on borrowed time himself. Kunza takes him out as well. Gets a double kill. Kunza's had a pretty good game so far. Mano being super sneaky there in the carriages.
Ooh. Bit of an awkward fight there from Lord Mano. Does get the kill in the end as the Porcupine comes through. Just going to sprint up towards the site as well, try to go for the recap. He does have support. Luckily, Romeo arrived just in the nick of time before his teammate was eradicated. Tries to get overly aggressive as well, but he's blown down in the face of fear. Divine King just trying to slash people up. Actually does bring himself onto a triple kill. So the point boost there going to be picked up. Fully overcommits on that, but all right, it works.
This is that patient point. He gets a killing spree, which is very, very important. But we've seen how quickly you can make a comeback on the subway station. I don't think even this lead that Black Bulls are currently sitting on, I don't think it's a safe lead. Divine King trades out, goes down and outscuns it. Grenade's going to get blocked because of the terrain, but this is pretty much the grenade alley. You're guaranteed to take some splash damage. If you don't, you're basically just incredibly lucky, to be honest. Now Bond's trying to push through, has not seen Divine King, who has actually, he seemed to miss quite a few shots there. I'm not sure what was currently going on there, but he got the kill in the end. And now this should be a 3-1 result, to be honest. Ooh. We're very, very close. He gets another one, triple kill, then a killing spree and a knife kill, all of it put together. Divine King sitting on 300 points. There's been a crazy bloodbath of a map for Divine King, who carries his team into victory. And Black Bulls can at least end today's broadcast with a 3rd place finish.
Yeah, better than nothing. Obviously, you walk away with 3rd place, right? Still first to lose, but it is definitely better than losing against the team that we haven't even seen before here over on the Guns of Boom broadcast. So a much needed victory, or else, that could have been a bit of a weird one walking into LA soon.
I think so. That pretty much, I think, was the only circumstance. Black Bulls, they couldn't afford to lose this today. I know there's always the possibility maybe they're not going in as hard. Maybe they're trying to reserve themselves a little bit. Some players and teams are known to sandbag in the lesser important tournaments before for the big one. But I think no one wants to end a cup as you know, not even able to get top 3 when you're supposed to be like, you know, the champs of this region.
It's also some spending money, right? It's a couple of dollars they can whip out when they're in America to actually, you know, walk away with some nice presents. Maybe pop down to Anaheim, you know, go Disneyland, get yourself some Mickey Mouse ears. Could be anything of the sort. It's around Halloween time as well. Get your limited edition Halloween Mickeys in.
Oh my god, I'm actually just waiting for that to be added to the game. Just some nice Mickey Mouse ears.
Mickey Mouse Halloween ears.
To celebrate, we're going to go to Disneyland here with some Guns of Boom. But that's kind of like what we saw there with Subway. I was concerned at the beginning because it feels like Black Bull's made a few mistakes today. And I feel like the better teams essentially just punished those mistakes way more severely, which is what back-to-back were able to do earlier today.
And this was the saving play right there as well that was just on the broadcast. So Divine King goes for a backstab. They just don't turn around. He gets behind them, kills one guy who had no HP because he'd already front grenaded him, so that's one shot. Kills the next guy. The other guy that's there still hasn't turned around. So all 3 of them have not realized he's behind them in the space of him getting 3 kills. They then finally work out what's going on. At that point, he's got a triple kill, added to the other points he'd already picked up. He got like 100 and something points just out of that one play towards the end of the game. So it's just like, all right, well, you've won.
Yeah, we don't get to see Divine King do a whole lot on a regular basis here in the GO4, but when he does well, he does exceptionally well. That's going to be the big thing, I think, is making sure that they're a little bit more airtight when they go into the Season 1 finals to make sure that they're pretty much having a good game every single time. I know that's like an easier said than done kind of situation, but as we've seen from teams like Back-to-Back, who have just been steadily climbing and climbing, it's definitely possible. We have 1 set left to go of the night before we swap over to North America, and it's the grand finals between Elements Pro Gaming and Back-to-Back. See you all in a few minutes. We're going to take a short break. Hello everybody and welcome back. This is the ESL Guns of Boom GO4 Finals, where my name is Ketchup and I'm joined on the desk as always by the Eternal Jackie. It's going to be our grand finals here for EU. We have one set left, and then we're going to jump over and do some of the North American matches. You know the drill by now. You've seen this one before. But what you haven't seen is the matchup we're going to be seeing here in grand finals. Let's have a look at the bracket, find out what the journey has been. Back-to-back are looking to try and take the final win in the GO4 Cups before we fly over to America for the Season 1 finals. Now, they're up against Elements Pro Gaming. I'm going to kind of just admit my ignorance here. I cannot remember the name of the team before they were picked up by Elements, because the second you see a new name, you kind of just disregard the old one. It took me ages to remember, obviously, Yakuza for the longest time before they, that was after. No, it was before Black Bulls. These teams have had so many team name changes, and then Orgs picked them up, so there's lots of rebranding going on.
Yeah, they made new names for themselves, and then they finally got picked up by Orgs. And then the players started to try and change their names. It was very weird, but, everyone's calm now.
Just creating a daisy chain of just kind of go down the family tree for that one.
Yes. So Stephen used to be known as Lord Mano, of course, formerly from Men with Ven, now in Black Bulls.
Indeed, I think so. I kind of half understand what you just said, but we're just going to roll with it.
There you go, mate.
We have the map vetoes here for grand finals, and we'll find out what we're going to be playing on. Paradise. Oh, yes. We were talking about how our favourite map is Paradise Island, and there it is right there. Paradise Island, skyscrapers, military warehouse, Wild West Saloon, and if it comes to the all-important final 5th map, it'll be Europe Square. So we have stuff to go with. Paradise Island is first, just been confirmed by production that we're going to be seeing that map to begin with. Exciting times for me. I just like watching Paradise Island, to be honest. I just like the map.
Yeah, it's all right. Obviously, the reference I used to make is if you flip the words and it's Island Paradise, that's also the name of a popular Facebook game in which you, in which you have a small desert island and you grow crops. You can grow I can't remember what they're called, pineapples.
You couldn't remember what pineapples were. I thought it was going to be something really exotic, like like a dragon fruit.
They're quite exotic.
Not really. Well, kind of.
Yeah.
I know. I try. Yeah, maybe.
You try to grow a pineapple?
Fun fact about pineapples, whenever you cut a pineapple, you've got to cut out the center, the core. That is the bit that is not very nice to eat and is very hard and not pleasant. You want the outside sections.
Yeah.
Cooking with ketchup.
You can get a core. It's called a corer, I think. You put it through and you twist it and you pour it out. There's also, in certain select Sainsbury's, a machine that will decore the pineapple for you.
That's actually amazing. I remember when I was in Las Vegas. I was in Las Vegas once for a video game tournament many, many years ago, and we had what was called by the vendor the ultimate pineapple experience, where they take a pineapple and they core it and they slice it into rings. So you've got the pineapple, but then they take all the rings out, fill it with homemade pineapple juice, put the rings back in, and then top it with homemade pineapple ice cream with a little umbrella and a straw and a spoon. It was one of the best things I've ever experienced. And Paradise Island, that would definitely be a place that would sell the ultimate pineapple experience.
I think so, potentially. I mean, if they're not on sale for the LA finals, I feel like we've missed the trick there, really.
The opportunity. That's where we should reach out to the catering and say, guys, we've got this amazing idea, right? Set out the stage like Paradise Island and then do pineapple experiences for everyone.
Essentially, what I want is everything made out of pineapple.
It sounds weird, right? But just roll with it.
Yeah. So if we can have the desks made of pineapple, that'd be great.
Someone got washed up onto shore, we can see there. Poor guy. Winding up on Paradise Island. What is this nonsense? But yeah, to be a little bit more serious, here comes the grand finals here, where it's back-to-back. We're going to see if they can pull it off versus here, Elements Pro Gaming. Excited to see if back-to-back can take their big win here before we go into the season finals. They will have that storyline set. But if Elements Pro Gaming can take this instead, that's going to be quite a message to send of, hey guys, by the way, we're the best. You enjoy your Season 1 tournament, but we're the real winners.
It's very, very true. And Killing Machine was just being toyed with as well by Shrapnel. He was just dancing around the luggage and keeping him on his toes, making him become the bellboy. As the push will come back around, though, trying to take control of the A site once again. And it actually will be stolen away by Elements Pro Gaming. They're now going to dash out of there, though. They don't want to stick around and have any shenanigans on the site. Instead, they're going to try and get very aggressive at multiple different angles across the board. Sounds like there's a herd of squawking seagulls as well on the map today.
They're probably pretty distressed by the amount of gunfire that's going on. I don't blame them.
I'd be shook.
They're trying to set up shop at Paradise Island, and then who are all these crazy warlords, man? This is madness. Anyway, this is a very close game so far, actually. Been incredibly back and forth. Hot Pepper's going to drop, and so is Quark. Shrapnel finally able to stop the bleeding just a little bit, but it's not enough. because back-to-back just keep daisy-chaining the kills. Back-to-back, pardon the expression, but it's even again! Look at how quickly these guys are trading it back. Follow here some shrapnel, see if he can put it off. Oh, never mind, back to Gonza. Mig's very weak, taking a kill, but at what cost? Well, that's the cost. 1 kill delivered, thank you very much, Killing Machine, using his patented sniper rifle. I feel like when the guys are back-to-back struggle a little bit, it's because Killing Machine isn't able to, like, explode onto the scene. Like, when he has an amazing game, it's easy money, but when he's playing just as well as everyone else, it looks a little bit more manageable for whatever team is on the other side. Yeah,
well, it's one of those factors, right? Sort of a comparison you can make with like a player like Simple, a team like Na'Vi with CS, is that even when he has an average game, he's still performing very, very well. But because you know of how well he can actually perform, you look at that with like a grain of salt, right? And you're like, oh, well, they're struggling, and this is the reason why. So Gonza right now on 144 points. Normally we see Killing Machine being very far ahead of the rest of his team by far. Although he plays with his team, it's almost that he competes against them for the majority of points in these games.
What they say, that your rivals become your friends or something like that?
Don't give ducks bread after midnight is another one.
Don't give seagulls rice.
Because they explode.
They puff up, poor things.
Can't digest it.
Nope. Back-to-back winning still. But this is very, again, it's barely a lead really with how quickly Elements just cleaned house. Winning a group fight, but hang on, Gonza just sneaking up behind. Hey guys, forgot about me. They literally have not stopped. He just ran in and took it. He just ran in and stole the point away. What a cheeky man.
That is ridiculous.
Oh, Killing Machine being a little bit too aggressive there, just running face first into 2 people.
I mean, that one back cap's kind of kept them in the game for a little bit longer here, though. However, Elements, they're winning the majority of these firefights. Maybe this is the first time we're going to see a team that isn't one of the top 3 come in to actually win one of these cups here, catch up, because it looks like it. I mean, 809 points to the 749 there of back-to-back.
Oh, Shrapnel got a killing spree, which might just be the coup de grace, I fear, because that's a late game to get killing spree points, that's for sure. Back-to-back. They can still win this, but they somehow need to take this point, keep it for as long as possible, hit those angles, but they've been struggling to do it the entire map. It's unlikely they're just going to randomly do it now. There's going to be game over. Elements coming in. They just need one more kill, which they obtain. Elements Pro Gaming take the first map, and okay, maybe back-to-back will remain forever second place.
Potentially. I mean, it seems like it. And this time it isn't being knocked out by one of the more prestigious teams either. This is being, you know, overthrown by the Elements. The Elements were definitely looking effective there, as they were able to win that one pretty commandingly for the most part. Seemed like they were firmly stuck in the driving seat, and fair enough. I mean, that's one of the more aggressive maps as well, so definitely a lot of commotion and chaos that can occur on Paradise Island. We've seen that come across there, but they handled it well. And Killing Machine, not having a mind-boggling performance, definitely not a dire one, but still not up to the level we expect to see of a player of his caliber.
It's kind of like what we just talked about, where if he's having a bad game, it's basically just an average game, not necessarily a bad one. And ultimately, Elements, they just held the points, like with an iron fist. They were very hard to crack into. The second they would lose people on the point, their recovery was highly impressive. You know, they would spawn, they would group together, they would pick their targets on the way in, which is one of the big things where whenever we're watching these replays, back-to-back, whenever they actually got a kill on the point, they could rarely hold it for any longer than a few seconds before ultimately losing it again. The map control was just in Elements' favor all time.
Yeah, they just had complete lock on the game there for the majority of it and weren't really slowing down at all. Overall, just seemed like the much better team were able to lock it down and win in the end. However, that is the first map of many, obviously a best of 5, so a lot more to come.
Yeah, we have lots more maps where that came from, basically. I am kind of worried about back-to-back, because if they can get this win and they can go to Season 1 finals with another win under their belt, it's going to be good for their team morale. But back-to-back, they have kind of historically been slaves to the second place. And they've been good enough to get grand finals, and in many cases they have just stomped their way into grand finals, but they're very rarely able to take it. I wonder if they just sort of do have an issue just finishing the job. And that's not a uncommon issue for a team to have. You know, you can put in all the skill and all the work, and when you finally get grand finals, it can historically be kind of hard to finish it. because, you know, you kind of go in grand finals and that starts to play on your mind. You realize how far you are in the tournament and then you start overthinking things. You doubt a decision, you miss a call, you're nervous, you're worried about it, you want to finally get that win, and the more second places that you earn, the worse it can get, because there's this mental block that many teams can feel, and not even in Guns N' Boom, just many games. So I would be concerned for back-to-back if they can't secure this win in the finals, because they need to finally get a win. You can't make your big win be the finals. You need to sort of like have a foundation laid first.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, you win this as well. It puts you in more of a mindset of being able to be like, all right, look, we won the last cup. We beat some new teams, you know, we upset it against some of the old gods as well. We know what we're doing. You walk into the LA finals, and that's when it all comes true, because you're playing against teams you've never physically been able to scrim against before. This is the NA teams that, you know, it's probably not worth their time scrimming against them because the ping's going to be so annoying. You're not really set up, you don't have the infrastructure for it. So it's definitely going to be a bit of a shock to them. So playing against a team like this, where they're a bit of an unknown quantity, could be quite good for them, because it's still lessons to be learned when we get into the action. But they will be carrying on. Obviously already a point in favor of Quark & Co. on the side of Elements Pro Gaming. They do need 2 more maps over to close down the series, and it is a good start for Migs on the side of back-to-back.
Team Deathmatch really seems to be a playground for back-to-back, I think. They have some real star fraggers in their lineup. You look at anyone pop off on back-to-back and it makes sense. There's not going to be like a surprise performance here. They're all excellent players. But if they lose TDM, it's another thing to be concerned about, because this is normally a game mode they do so well on. But right now, Elements had a pretty good start. But as is the nature of TDM, the stack goes down, don't have the health or armor, and it starts to escape you. Now things are relatively even. It's now 88 to 81. Soon to change as Hot Pepper secures another kill on the board for himself. The important thing, though, is getting a kill and not taking damage. Killing sprees are eternally important when it comes to Team Deathmatch. And Hot Pepper getting a second kill, actually. No damage taken again. He now needs to make sure he can get that triple N onwards for a nice little burst of points. It's a 1v1 between himself and Gonza, who now makes it a 2v1 as John Wick tries to cover the sides. But he gets absolutely ambushed by Hot Pepper, who now got his killing spree, and that's why you gotta be patient and careful. Killing Machine takes out Hot Pepper, but he's already got a killing spree. He's already got his burst of points. He can now respawn and just do it again.
And I think timing-wise, it's probably more efficient to actually reset, try to go for that killing spree again, than try and keep yourself alive and fight on for more, because it's not really going to work. It's been very effective so far. I mean, Shrapnel's got himself another kill as well, being able to build back up. The side of Elements looking effective through and through here, as they're winning the majority of these confrontations. They have a big lead over back-to-back, nearly about 100 points extra over them currently, which is quite nice to see. Normally teams don't pull ahead that much in the early stages.
Back-to-back starting to somewhat climb back up, but unfortunately for them, 2 very impressive grenade kills go through to Elements. Grenade kills being another one of the kills that can grant you extra points. The kill, and then the grenade kill added on top. A little bit of spice. Headshot for Quark. Again, all of these tiny little bonuses, another headshot. All of these little bonuses you obtain, they add up by the end of the map. If there's a difference between 10 points or so, maybe one headshot would have secured the win or not. You have to really think about these things, and the hot 2v1 Hot Pepper takes out another who's had a impressive spree, but it's Shrapnel who we really want to look at. The rest of Elements actually not doing amazingly well. He's been sort of keeping them afloat. Oh, speaking of which, another one. And another one! Gets the kill at the end, but who cares? He's got loads of points. Ooh, Quark looking good. Oh, Killing Machine drops double kill. Elements looking more than fantastic. This is probably going to be a 2-0, Jackie.
Yeah, this is wild, man. They're just running through it right now. 433 points to the 336 there, back-to-back, lagging behind so far. The only one that tries to step up is Migs, and they do have a good flank on their hands, potentially here. If they can actually pull this off, but the trades come back through, and it is scary. They're just so much further ahead. They only need 50 points to actually really start to close this one out as well, and they're getting them. Quark will be the saving grace of the sides, just absolutely demolishing in every firefight he comes into. And at this point, it is just a matter of time, really, catch up.
Yep, I'm worried the back-to-back pushed too far forward. We kind of saw a lot of respawn protection used during those fights, and that's only ever a sign that you've gone too far. Elements Pro Gaming take another map, and they're on the verge of a 3-0 here, Jackie. What is going on? These guys didn't make the finals. They shouldn't be doing this well.
Yeah, it is crazy. That's against Killing Machine and Co as well, the people that normally are the kings of TDM, right? They thrive in that environment. They absolutely love it. That's where they perform at their best normally. So very bizarre elements definitely showing. Maybe there's some new contenders on the rise. Even though it's the end of the season, it means there's new talent coming up for next time.
Sometimes you just wonder, where were these guys? Like, were these guys around at the beginning? Did they miss a few weeks? And are the weeks they missed the only reason they didn't quite make it through? Like, who knows? This is pretty insane right now. But a big part of it actually came down from at the very end, back-to-back, they pushed a little bit too far forward. They really, really did. A lot of those kills, you saw sort of the glowing yellow aura that was coming from the side of Elements, and that's basically because they would respawn, and the respawn protection hadn't run out yet. And they can, it almost seems like an amateur mistake to make. I know that they want to sort of maintain position, they want to maintain that pain train that was rolling. But if you're too far, they're going to respawn and just kill you for free because you're not doing any damage. You got to sit back. You got to try and hold angles instead.
Yeah, it is crazy. You can see here, without 2 minutes left on the clock, that was the only point where Killing Machine started to have a bit of a resurgence and actually double his points from 50 to 100. But it took so long for him to actually get into that matchup. And with him being a sort of star player, if he's not performing, then obviously there's going to be issues.
And that's actually one of the main things that we talked about. When Killing Machine has a bad game, it tends to be an average game. That the same can't really be said for the rest of his teammates, where it's definitely possible for some of them to really struggle at times. But Wild West Saloon is going to be up next, I believe. So this is going to be a map that we've already seen them play on. They've already looked comfortable. And if it reaches that point, it was in the rotation, but we didn't necessarily see them play on it, I think, from the semis at least. But I don't know, I feel like back-to-back have kind of struggled to get back on the horse.
Yeah.
They looked so good going into Grand Finals, but it seems like just a classic tale of how things don't maintain consistency for back-to-back. They are a very inconsistent team because, like I said, slave to the second place. They are yet to consistently win tournaments, even though we look at them playing. They're just animals. They're absolute animals when the time comes. But not in Grand Finals. I can't put my finger on it, Jackie.
It's weird. Maybe they are just saving it up. So, their first win is in LA, and they can walk out there with the trophy behind them. Maybe that's what they want. It's not about the money. It's just about the, I don't know, making other teams think they're bad at Grand Finals.
I mean, look, it's possible to sandbag, always. Sandbagging is as old school as it gets. Players reserving their tech, their strategies. But right now, as we go into the final, I don't know. If they are holding back, maybe, if they are sandbagging, I suggest not doing it here. Ooh. But at the end of the day, it's not going to be the worst thing if they don't win this, but it's going to be quite a story for Elements and Co. to really send a message and say, hey guys, by the way, don't forget about us next time.
So there you go, that was a lot nicer as well. Back to back, I mean, they have all 4 players still alive after that fight, and they team wiped everyone on the side of Elements. They then got the control of the point as well, so definitely in the lead in the early game, but the response has been big, and Shrapnel finding the majority of the frags is going to be quite nice, because obviously now they can try and set him up to build into a killing spree from this position. They're winning all of these individual fights as well. Shrapnel goes down. That's actually a double kill now picked up as well for Gonta as he retakes this. Going to be diving on the site and trying to steal it away, which he will. So this one seems a lot closer already.
And this is what they needed. Back-to-back, they needed a good start, because I feel like the other 2 maps have just been in Elements' favor, because they pretty much, it was all top speed. There was no acceleration. They went right out. But it's still looking close. 2 kills, Gonza and John Wick working together. But Gonza, I think, on borrowed time, Quark finishes him off, because that's the trade effect of Gonza Boom. Like, it's so hard to miss, because of the way the aiming works, how it's kind of like auto-fire, just move your crosshair over them. You're guaranteed to take damage. If someone can see you, you're going to get shot. So human error is rarely factored in. It's more line of sight rather than general execution. Which means that's why we're trying to see them take these tight little angles. Quark's running away to make sure he can't get shot. John Wick falls. The 2v1 is going to put Elements in a wonderful position, and the double, that trade, it's going to benefit Elements, because look at how much of a good position they're holding. Oh God. Killing Machine tries to get an angle, but Shrapnel was already waiting for him. And I feel like Killing Machine's desire to get those sniper angles is starting to be used against him.
Yeah, you can see it coming back to bite him. Teams actually understand how he plays the game now and can counter him quite easily because of that style. So he's really gone back to just using the rifle, getting a bit more aggressive, trying to just sprint in. Now they're actually winning again, but he is quickly crumbling in favor of Elements, and it's not looking too ideal. I mean, they're able to at least thin out the numbers on the point, but they just can't even capture it from themselves. Every time Elements might lose a bit of control, but they dive back on it, they recap, and they start to lock it down.
That's how quick the turnarounds are too. And that's the key of King of the Hill, is holding it for as long as possible, but when you ultimately lose the point, you've got to have this fast, furious, coordinated attack to bring it back as quickly as you can, because if you don't, back to back, they just get one good group fight, and look at the control they've been able to re-establish. It's now dead even, but this is going to be a climbable lead if they can just keep these group fights in their favor.
Ooh, kills come back through. I mean, they finally lost the lead for once here, but as soon as I say that, they try and nearly squeeze it back again. They've got the site control. Killing Machine gonna chuck that grenade a little bit too far, unfortunately yeeting when he should have Kobe'd, and the response is still good from back to back.
Super even, but this is the critical point. We've hit it. This is basically, you know, danger zone for both of these teams. Back to back have a good lead, and it's just going to become even more impressive. And they were behind pretty much the entire time, but it feels like one amazing group fight. They're now starting to trickle in their spawns. The control they have should be more than sufficient. Migs now tries to pick a lucky little angle. Keeps Quark behind. Okay, they've been able to surprise, but this is King of the Hill. If they can just win the group fight, they don't even need the point at this point.
Okay, that's the scary part, is that they were so close to it. So even if they would have messed up every one of those fights, the small trickle they were getting just from getting sustained kills as well would have taken it. So back to back, they peeled out too much towards the end there to lose. However, they literally have to play not to lose now, because it's still the case where the other team needs one map to win. They need one map to keep themselves even in this.
Yeah, exactly. And fortunately for back-to-back, though, they played really, really well when it comes to re-establishing their dominance on the map. They had one good group fight. Now that's pretty much all she wrote. They were behind the whole time. They win one fight, and the results speak for themselves. That's why control is the magic word in these capture point-based modes. Even King of the Hill, where it's normally about who kills the most, you still have to control the center of that map, because you get a lot of vision on that respawn, you get a lot of control over, you know, really sort of funneling in where the other teams start to run in there. And yeah, it was a nice performance there from back-to-back. But it's the first victory of a couple more if they're going to win this tournament.
Yeah, the first of many, and that's a scary factor, right? Is they're still not out of the woods just yet. They've got an awful lot more of a sprint left to go here. So you've won this initial stage. Can you actually get any more out of it, or will Elements close it down? That's the scary factor as well, is you're up against sort of an unknown team. You're showing them a lot of respect. You're trying to win this one in as close of a fair fight as possible, but it just seems like they're outskilling them, looking like the better side in the majority of these rounds.
And then the big thing about King of the Hill, though, was the fact that you can turn it around as fast as you can is going to be somewhat of a blessing in disguise, because that's where the seasoned teams can, I think, reassert their dominance. That's the big thing. You know, if you lose sort of team deathmatches and you can't quite climb back on when things are going bad, the control point-based maps means if you can get one good sequence, you can hold it and then win on that one capture alone. It just theoretically, you know, took back-to-back like 4 minutes to finally capture it, but when they did capture it, they won. They're not going to have that luxury, no, on our fourth map, which will be Military Warehouse. This is going to be going back to team deathmatch. On normal days, I would say I favor back-to-back here on TDM, because they have some real star performers. However, again, they've been a little bit inconsistent in grand finals, so this could be anyone's game.
The lighthouse there, looking like a lighthouse.
They should call it the Fright House this month.
Oh,
oh,
that could be good.
Oh, big oof there.
I feel like
oof.
You know, this map could have had a lot done to it. There's the weird plants that kind of look like the cow plants that you get in the Sims that can bring the Sims back to. I see that they can bring Sims back to life, or they can give them a potion to eternal life. They're floating around in this map somewhere. They look like big trees, but with mouths.
Reminds me of Resident Evil. That's what it does. Do not enter, otherwise you'll find the secret stuff. Either way.
Well, not is underlined, so you know, who knows?
Really emphasizing that you are not allowed. Now here comes the two-piece, the difference in strategy. It's actually going to be Elements there. We're trying to split off. Does it work out? That's the question.
There you go. There's
Ooh, there's the mix-up there. Can they take it? Oh, the trade! Okay. That's an interesting start right there.
So it's very close here, all ready to open it up. In a very tight position. It's 41 to 58. The aggression going to be coming through the killing machine. Look at that, just bounding over the ramp and sprinting into their faces. Will kill Max. Quark as well going to go down. Migs being very aggressive, but had the confidence to at least get the majority of damage done, so killing machine can annihilate shrapnel. They're just going to be holding those close angles as well. They're literally just spawn camping elements here.
And I feel like that's so important in Team Deathmatch, especially on a map like this where it's really easy to sort of hold those angles knowing that someone's going to appear. You know, you have a complete guarantee of what doors people will come from. So there we go, the two-piece attack. John Wick giving his position away. Gonza tries to run in and help, but unfortunately, they're both going to eat death, guaranteed. Killing Machine gets one Thanatos shot, misses a shot, so he's going to take unreturned damage. That's never a good look. Both back-to-back, having the lead for now. It's not going to be the end of the world, but we are running out of time, Jackie. You'd be surprised how quickly these matches can go, especially on TDM. A good start is so important here. At the rate things are going, though, back to back, looking at tie the knot, maybe taking us to a 2-2. I really like their positioning. It feels like they're just able to take these frags really well. Killing Machine is proving to be a thorn in their side as well. Gonza just doing Gonza things. Unfortunately, getting completely surrounded there. But every time one of them drops from elements or they get a kill, they take at least a point-blank shotgun blast, which is damage you just can't afford to take. Allows the rest to pick up, which is why, you know, John Wick, he drops, yes, but he did the job. He traded it out, and as long as they're winning, a trade's going to be in their favor.
Shrapnel going to trade that back onto Gonza. So 2-2-8 to the 3-5-8 there back-to-back. I mean, right now it's looking like we're going to be going to the final map of the series because they have such a big lead already. Normally in a game like TDM, it is efficient trades the entire time, but that just isn't coming out of Elements, struggling majorly back-to-back. They want to shut this down right now. Let's get us to our fifth and final map here, Ryan. It seems like it's ready.
They're just doing another day in the office for this one, aren't they? Killing Machine drops, but at this point he's really not going to care at all. Not one bit. Why would you? You have such a lead, let's just trade this out. Yeah, we lost a couple, but it doesn't matter. 30 points left to go, and we're going to be laughing and going into our final map.
And this is where his teammates have done a good shift of the work as well. Gonza on 147 there. You've got John Wick on 145. I mean, Migs is even ahead of Killing Machine right now. He's having a slower affair since the rebrand on his name again.
Should have changed his name back to that guy called KM.
Yeah, Big Man KM. All caps.
You'll remember that for finals. Oh, point blank grenade shoved in his face. Hello. How's it going, mate?
Not too bad. And not too bad for back-to-back as well, as they win that one. And we'll be back on the desk for the final map, Ryan. One more to go now between these two teams.
I feel like seeing as this is the last European tournament we're going to be doing before the finals, I'm glad that we've sort of been able to go down to this final map situation. Things are looking nice and close, and it's still unpredictable, but normally in this position, if a team has what it takes to go the distance and reverse 3-0 another team, now we're on the final map, that's actually, you know, you would assume that the difficulty has been in back-to-backs, you know, their court, because the demand of having no choice but a 3-0, that's a big order, and it's not easy to do. However, now we've reached the point where it's 2-2, and this is very much a reverse 3-0 in the making. I would say it's much worse for Elements Pro Gaming now, because they've just lost 2 maps. They are well aware of the situation. You know, they're not stupid. They know that they are currently being swept and are choking this one out because they had 2 maps they took very dominantly, I have to say. It's going to be harder for them, I think, to climb that mountain. Now they're the ones that are on the verge of being swept in reverse, knowing how close they were to victory. Because that Wild West map spent the absolute fair majority being in their favor, and they now are the ones that can't close out.
Yeah, which is, you know, it's an interesting sort of standpoint to now look at the game from. And if we now put all that to one side, delve into Europe Square as the final matchup here, it's a control point map. A little bit different, obviously, allows you to try to go for the back cap. It's one of those where it just sort of comes down to knowing when to rotate off, when you need to deviate from one point. When's it not worth fighting over, like, point B, for say? Just trying to back cap, take A, and just let them have B for the meantime, then get back into the game. A little bit more decision-making comes into play here. That should favor a team like back-to-back, right? They've been together longer, we've seen them play more, communication should be better. However, Elements had pretty good decision-making, the majority of the maps we've seen, but that's mostly been TDM, so that's the risky one, right? Actually going into a pretty objective-based game mode now, this could peel back in favor of back-to-back, but still, it's a pretty even playing field to round it out on. It's the last map of the series, so whatever they've got, they need to bring out now.
We've seen back-to-back pull off some pretty magical things here on Europe Square, so I would, my gut instinct does actually favor these guys on this map. And a reverse 3-0 would be an excellent way to finish their show where they can feel pretty damn good as we go into the Season 1 finals later on. But that said, if Elements can pull this big win off and silence what is currently a very, very impressive comeback, they're going to be feeling good about themselves, ultimately, as well. But our final map here is going to be the Europe Square. I'm wondering how this one's going to go, because back-to-back, if they can take this win, they're going to be the #1 team to watch in the region, I think everyone would agree.
I think that's fair to say. I mean, definitely looking quite strong. Can they step up now in the final stages? The last matchup here in Europe. The last game we'll see on this broadcast of the European scene for quite some time.
Oh yeah, I think so. We'll have to wait and see, I guess. We know there's going to be some continued support, but right now, this is where we're paying attention, right? You know, we have to pay attention to the now, which is who is the team of the day. Max spills the first blood, so Elements have a good start. And if you can get first blood in control points, that's really important, because it's the early trendsetter. If you hold point dominance at the beginning, it's such a hard thing to recover from when you're significantly behind. Gonza tries to run. Killing Machine is very weak. Unfortunately, the stack does not favor him in that 1 versus 1. Shrapnel gets a kill right before the cover of the truck. Thank you very much for keeping me alive. And Hot Pepper now forcing himself into a 2v2. Can clean up, but unfortunately right behind him, there is going to be Killing Machine looking to pick up the pieces. And Elements have the lead, but it's not a significant lead at all.
No. They're being dominated as well now. Look, C's about to be taken. They're just going to recap A, but it's still not fantastic. I mean, you're going to be able to recap that. They've basically just traded the 2 main capture points now. So the lead will stay pretty similar here, but they have to try and recap C. They're going to dump on it. They will be able to get that back in their favor, it seems. I mean, it's a little bit of a shaky one. But finally, we can see Miggs is on it. Quark can challenge on the 1v1. He's lost a lot of health there on the first shot. It's an easy follow-up as well from the shotgun of Miggs. And it is falling to pieces, back to back. Peering ahead now when it comes down to the meat of the game mode. They understand when to rotate off. They've got a good understanding of how to actually capture these points, and they're proving that. The triple cap coming back into effect.
It's very hard to say that a bad start will hinder back-to-back in this game, because I feel like they are one of the smarter teams in Guns of Boom right now. So, you know, even if they don't manage to get a head start, they're in a position where they can pick up the pieces quite quickly. You know, and the second it comes down to using the brain and the rotations, and when to attack, when to coordinate, they've done that so many times before. That said, Elements, they do now hold a significant amount of points, and you can see this natural climb. It's starting to creep up on back-to-back, so we're very close to having a close map at the end. Elements looking excellent. Max wins the 1v1, so important, because that's going to give them the lead. Here it is. They now hold more points. Hot Pepper taking the center. They're putting all of their focus on the right-hand side, but hang on a minute. Look at the 3-man attack here from back-to-back, who should be able to effortlessly win this fight and take the lead in their favor. Shrapnel gets 1 kill to survive, but John Wick behind. Miggs sandwiching him in. There's no way he's surviving that one. And this is a close game, Jackie. I'm going to put you on the spot. Who do you reckon's winning?
I feel like back-to-back, you've got to take this at this point. They seem to just be peering ahead. I mean, right now, got the majority of the flag control as well. C's only just going to be retaken, but they're about 100 points behind. It's a struggle for them, especially when this lead keeps on building. John Wick finally got another killing spree in. You're at 900 points there. They've got to walk away with this. However, the other team instantly bounces back through.
He gets a triple kill, a killing spree, and a knife kill. That is a huge burst of points, single-handedly bringing the boys back in town. But back-to-back, they are looking a lot stronger, but that one individual performance from Quark may have been the absolute beginning. Look at how close this is. Impossible to call. This is incredibly close, Jackie.
This is wild. Going down to the wire right now.
Oh, yeah.
Elements so close to picking up victory here. They need 100 points back to back.
Oh.
Slightly further behind, but they're keeping it neck and neck here throughout this entire game. Max, if he wins this 1v1, there's potential, but he isn't going to jump on B. Wanted to try and contest towards the C site. Drops the nade in.
Wait a minute.
Further follow-up. He is winning this game for them right now. They only need 10 more points. It just comes down to whoever finds the next frag.
Game over.
The trick comes through. That will be Elements winning it. Back to back. Still another second place. No trophy today.
That is really unfortunate for the back-to-back boys, but it's excellent for Elements Pro Gaming, where it was quite literally 5 points separated the two teams at the very end. So what does this mean? Well, it means that Elements are going to be the final champions here of the GO4s, but they're not going to be a team that are actually at the finals. That's the big thing we need to really think about what this means. Well, it means that Elements Pro Gaming can end the Season 1 of the Guns of Boom GO4 feeling excellent about their ability because they've been able to take out teams that were guaranteed into the Season 1 finals. So they've been able to prove they are at least of that level. However, they are not going to be at the finals. So what that means for back-to-back is they need to seriously work on their issues when it comes to closing out a tournament. They are top-level players by absolute certainty, but they just struggle so much at taking those big wins. And this is going to be something they have to desperately fix before the biggest tournament of their lives.
Yeah, they've really got to reset themselves and try and get back into this one with a fresh mindset, because it does just seem like, you know, there was a little bit of a droop in confidence. I mean, even there, they had the understanding down. They were able to control the majority of the points the entire time, but the firefights just went the way of Element Pro, and they blew them out the water. They just look so much stronger, and Max did save the day here.
And yeah, there was some real sort of star performances, but let's have a look at this bracket close until the very end. Elements Pro Gaming are going to be our final champions here in the GO4 Cups, leading in to our Season 1 finals, of which we're going to be seeing Black Bulls and back-to-back later down the line in a LAN environment. So there's plenty of stuff to practice and plenty of things to sink your teeth into. But that said, this is going to be the final moments, actually, of our European Cup. We do have North America up next, so by no means is this show done. But it's been interesting to me to kind of watch the progression of the teams, starting off with the journey of Jug Knights of Honor, the real star teams back in the day. Yakuza were there kind of within the third place runnings back then, and then back-to-back have been consistently. It's almost fitting how they were the original second place and then the last second place.
It is quite funny, obviously, from the first time I did it with you a long time ago now to the point we're now in. Just see who's sort of changed, who's still stuck around, and how the meta's shifted. So very interesting on our last debut in Europe.
Well, best of luck to the back-to-back crew, as we'll be seeing them later in the Season 1 finals in North America. But that does mean we have North America up next. We're going to find out who's going to be the champion of our last GO4 for that side of the world. And while we do that, we're going to go for a break and prepare things. So see you soon. We'll be right back.